Holy crap.
People persist in doubting the evidence.
Don't run and hide. Don't be afraid. Don't turn away any longer. The truth will set you free.
If the game is rigged, change the game.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Game changer, game changer, game changer, game changer. The Game Changer Radio Network.
Turning all of our intelligence towards Jimmy Church.
And now, your host, the captain of conspiracy, the prince of paranormal. This ain't your daddy's radio network show. This is Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
All right, let's go. How you doing? It's Monday. Yeah. Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Today is Monday, June 29th. 181 days into the new year. 184 days left. Let's get this show cracking. We are live from the City of Angels studio. Right here in downtown, burning hot gates of hell, Burbank, California. City of Angels, COA Vapor. Makers of the Fade to Black E-Juice. Fader Loops. That's right. Just go to the COA banner at jimmychurchradio.com. You can use the promo code Jimmy, J-I-M-M-Y, for the Fader Not Special. Thank you for the support. City of Angels. I'll have a surprise for you when we run video this Thursday. You'll see. All right, let's get this show cracking. I'd like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States, hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR and the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. I'm your oh-so-humble host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? Tonight, yes, it is the all-feminine week right here on Fade to Black. Tonight we have very special guest, Serena Wright Taylor. Good friend, very smart woman. Easy on the eyes, too. Serena will be with us tonight at the bottom of the hour. And Dana Dunn will be with us tonight. One of the smartest people that I know. She'll be with us. We're going to get Dana back. She's a busy woman, but we're going to get her back, too, as well. And so there you go. Dana Dunn tonight. She was tough to get on the show. Ask Serena. She's a busy woman. But tonight we have her. Tomorrow night, Linda Zimmerman will be with us. Ufologist. Lots of things with Linda, but the Hudson Valley UFO incident. We'll be talking about that. And then on Wednesday night, the one and only Betsy Lewis will be with us. The call-in number is 323-825-5045. You can also Skype in Fade to Black and the number 14. All right. Big salute to the proud men and women in uniform all around the world fighting the good fight for us. For without them, there is no me, there is no you, there is no us, and you could not hear me right now. And I really need you to think about that for a second. And I say it on every show. Think about it. Think about it. Freedom of speech. The ability for us to hang out on this show is everything. Do not take it for granted. Every night I'm able to come on this microphone and broadcast. Think about that for a second. There's a lot of places that don't allow this kind of fun. All right. Drinking out of my Walter Lewis question everything mug. I'm going to do it live on the air. Walter and I were just tweeting before the show. Yeah, man. Walter last year brought me this gift at Contact in the Desert, and he whips it out. And it's this giant coffee mug. It's a weapon/mug. And thank you, Walter. And, I've got a nice collection of mugs now from everybody. I can rotate every day of the week and go with another friend's mug. And, I got my Lynn Lewis mug. I've got my Les Johnson mug. Man, I even have a collection of shot glasses. All right, let's go. Join faders.org. It's free. It's fun. Become a fader not today. Just go to www.faders.org. And Method, what was that code? You sent me a code to broadcast to the world. Do you really want me to broadcast the code? Don't you need to vet? You need to know who's coming into that circle. You don't need to get infiltrated. Think about that. Hey, I know something crazy happened on Friday night, and it was the last episode of Hangar One. Wow. 12 weeks blew by like it was nothing. Did you guys catch the last episode? And I saw some tweets going out. I missed it. I know. But we were with friends and family Friday night, so we missed the episode. But I got the tweets, and I saw Facebook and stuff, so I guess my mug was there. But did you guys enjoy this season of Hangar One? Was it all that? I did. You're going to have your critics, but I enjoyed it. Wow, Mark Dunbar, you're quick on the draw there, brother. Man, geez, I barely got that out. So, yeah, there it is. I don't know what kind of picture is that? Oh, good Lord. Okay, so there you go. Hangar One. So there you go. Okay. Done. But we've got something else pretty cool that we'll be airing here shortly. And as soon as we can talk about this new series, we will. Okay, I promise. All right? So there you go. All right, let's get the show cracking. Let's do this. Man, it's Monday. Good to be back in the chair. We spent the weekend, I might as well just tell you, one of those things that we all do. Every few years. It's called the lease is up on a car. And so we did. We went out car shopping this weekend. So we did that. We last week I was talking about our back lawn over at Cassaday Church and how I just can't keep, we live in the desert. Can't keep. So we called a company to come out and replace our lawn. So I don't want to do this. I don't want to give up what grass I have, but going with that water-free lawn. In other words, they pull out the grass and insert gravel. And I'm just not into that. Not only that, you can't walk in it in your bare feet. You can't walk, our poor dogs are going to be out there in the hot sun dancing with their paws on the gravel. So now Wowo's got me talked into, that's it. We're just going to pull it out and we're going to pour concrete. That's it. We're just going to turn the back lawn into a giant pleasure palace. Fire pit, conversation areas, couches, chairs. That's it. That's what's going to go on out there. The grass is disappearing. So I'm frantically trying to water it to see if it'll just pop up because I'm at one with my lawn and I feel bad. Pulling it out. That's it. I fought so hard and reseeded and did everything. But that's it. I guess in the next week or so, we're going to pull that thing out. And I'd rather have poured concrete than gravel. But that's it. We're going to do it. So, all right. So that was our weekend. And so it feels so good to be back in the chair. I'm exhausted, man. We worked. It was just like, it should be time off. And it's not. It's never that. Our weekends are fully slammed. And looking forward to the weekend is great. And what's coming up this weekend? July 4th. So you know what that means. Oh, man, alive. This 4th of July, we'll be posting pictures. We're going to have a a little shindig with some friends, and we'll get that up and posted. So much for the relaxing weekend. I guarantee you, next Monday, it's going to be like, oh, man, oh, I'm here. That's what it's going to be like next Monday. Today, I'm excited. I'm fired up. All right. Today, check this out. Oh, and this morning, I want to let everybody know. I got passed a note today. All of the T-shirts and everything else, all the mailings and everything went out today, but we ran out of 2XL fade to black shirts. And I don't get that. And so what does that say about our audience? That's all I got. How do you run out of 2XL? But we did. So everything else is gone and is out there heading across the country, but and out of the country, so to speak. But so 2XLs, those are a couple days delayed. We ordered some more. So anyway, well, 2XLs will be following in the next few days. But what does that say about our audience, man? 2XL. Those are big shirts. I mean, I wear the 1XL, and I'm a big boy. I hope you guys know what you're ordering. That's all I got to say. Okay. And just a tip to everybody. The 2XLs are big shirts, man. Those are tents. So think about that. I'm a big boy. I'm 6 foot, 200 pounds, and the 1XL are just fine on me, if not too big. All right? Okay. Anyway, why did I even go there? Oh, I just thought it was funny. How could we run out of 2XLs? But we did. All right. Where are we? Oh, today. That's where I'm going. Australia. That's where I was going. Australia on my mind. And it's been on my mind all day because a bunch of shirts got shipped to Australia today. So I came back and I got all of that taken care of. And I came back today and I was thinking about Australia. And lo and behold, today is Colin Hay's birthday. Colin Hay. I love Colin Hay. And Colin Hay is the lead singer for Men at Work. And oh man, what MTV and Men at Work in the 80s and Colin Hay and what they meant and everything for me musically. Great band. And I actually saw them live. And they were awesome live. But anyway, so Men at Work, It's a Mistake, a great song about nuclear war. It's a mistake. And of course, Who Can It Be Now, which to me was always about aliens, Men at Work, Colin Hay. Well, and so I got to thinking, Men at Work, Australia, what is it with Australia and great bands? So, I have to put my mind to this a little bit. And you've got AC/DC, of course. You've got NXS, Men at Work. And then I thought, wait a minute. Does the Bee Gees fall in the category of being from Australia? I always thought the Bee Gees were an Australian band. So I wanted to go and check that out. And, they bounced back and forth from England. But how does Australia? So this is what I want to know. This is where I'm going with this. Everybody in Australia, we got a big, huge Australian audience. And as to the rest of the world, everybody, are the Bee Gees from Australia or not? That's it. Because that could be Australia's greatest export because they're one of the greatest bands ever in the history of everything. I love my Bee Gees. But are they Australian? Isn't that a weird thought? So, that's it. That's my Midnight Oil, Nancy Nurse. There's another great Australian band. Australia cranks them out. I don't know what it is. So there you go. Is the Bee Gees Australian? That's my thing. Bloke from Oz comes in with NXS. Man, I love NXS. Ooh. I love everything NXS. Okay. All right, so that's it. That's the Twitter question of the day. I'm looking at Twitter right now. It's already fired up, but there you go. Is the Bee Gees Australian? And it's I'm not, the UK, are they claiming the Bee Gees as their own? And are they allowed to do that? And does Australia look at the Bee Gees as being theirs? Yeah, man. Let's get that feud going. This is Fade to Black. Tonight, Dana Dunn and Serena Wright Taylor are with us. This is Fade to Black, the spoke radio for the masses, the Monday edition on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. I'll be back right after this. Stay with us.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
What's up, revolutionaries? It's me, Jimmy Church. Do you have an IRS or state tax issue? Well, I did, and I called national tax experts. My problems were fixed, done, fini, and man, I gotta tell you, it was a relief. National Tax Experts are a recognized tax office that services clients in all 50 states. Doesn't matter where you live. Give them a call. I'm telling you, they take the time to understand each and every client's individual financial status as well as their financial goals. And that's exactly what you need, my brother, when you're taking on the evil 3-letter. So, seriously, give them a call today at 1-877-909-5444. Again, 1-877-909-5444. Or go check out their website, www.nattaxexperts.com. That's NATTAXEXPERTS.com. Tell them Jimmy sent you.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Chase Kletsky with Fate Magazine Radio, and you're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station, where the Fade-or-Nots rock.
Welcome back. This is Fade to Black, the Monday edition. What is cracking, everybody? Fired up. Tonight we have Serena Wright Taylor with us, and then Dana Dunn will be joining us a little later on. Tomorrow night, Linda Zimmerman, and on Wednesday, Betsy Lewis. Wow, kind of weird how it just panned out that way. We booked the best, and it just turned out to be the all-feminine week. And I just got to tell you, we booked the best, and that's the way it shakes out, guys. That's it. The all-feminine week. All right. I just mentioned earlier my Walter Lewis Question Everything mug. And what am I going to do with that thing right now? I'm going to take me a Power Bite live on air. Do it every night? Or do it right now. It's in my mouth. It's in my mouth. What is it about vitamins? I got a bunch of email over the weekend going, dude, I love the smell of vitamins too. Every time you talk about it, I want to go smell vitamins. It's weird, isn't it? It is. It's a weird thing. I just love the smell of vitamins. And I love taking my Power Bites live on the air. Nothing coated, nothing hidden. It's not a corporate vitamin. No, you can actually see what's going on in every single tab that you pop in your mouth. Power Bites are a complete multivitamin mineral formula designed to naturally boost your energy. It works for me. I take them every single day. They go to work now. They've got the same great bacteria found in better yogurts. It helps you absorb all of those nutrients. I'm telling you, Power Bites are the ticket. The Green Turtle Bay Vitamin Company are dedicated nutritionists. They've been producing Power Vites right here in the United States for over 20 years. So go to EnergyWave.com right now, EnergyWave.com. Use the promo code KGRA and get free shipping on your order. Call 1-800-TURTLE-5. That's 1-800-TURTLE-5. Live operators are standing by. That number is 1-800-887-8535. Power Vites. EnergyWave.com. Love them. Man, I got them right here. I'm not kidding. In the studio. Got my Power Mates right here. All right. On this day in history, the U.S. Space Shuttle docks with the Russian space station for the first time. Yes, in 1995. Makes me, I want to say with everything, this is what I don't get about the space shuttle, and what really pisses me off is with Elon Musk and SpaceX and renewable this and the commercialization of space and they're going to take care. The thing is, and this is what I don't get. We had the space shuttle. It launched. It landed on an airstrip. How cool is that? It was perfect. Why aren't we advancing that technology? What brainiac just let that go? Everything that we had developed. I mean, seriously, we had a frigging space plane. It was right there. And we stopped that? It doesn't make any sense. It didn't make sense then. It makes even less sense now. Over the weekend, what happened? SpaceX blew up another one. I just don't get it. I don't get it. All right. Man, it just gets under my skin. I was so proud of the space shuttle. It was the coolest thing ever. Do you remember, all of you Fadernauts, the ones that are old enough to remember this, do you remember the first time you saw the space shuttle on the back of the 747? Remember that when they paraded that thing around the country? Remember how cool that was? Live on TV. Breaking news. How cool was that? We had that, man. We had it. I just don't get it. It just blows my mind. Blows my mind. All right, Fader facts. Here's one for you, everybody in Arizona. Check this out. Didn't know that. Didn't know this until today. The highest structures in Arizona are stacks from the Navajo Generating Station coal-burning power plant. The highest structures in the entire state are smokestacks. Yeah, that's a Fader fact. That's a good one, too. All right, Les just tweeted, we are walking backwards. Exactly. The Orion spacecraft is Apollo technology. You're 100% correct on that. A little roomier, I suppose, a little less claustrophobic. But I just don't get it. We should the next piggyback. If you're gonna stop this space shuttle program, if you're gonna do that, then you better have the next thing ready to go and testing and showing it off. Yeah, Norik just tweeted the picture. I'm gonna retweet. That's a good retweet right there. That was a great moment for the United States. Look at that. We had that. Look at the little windows on the side of the space shuttle. Room for 20. First class. Business class. Yeah, man. Right there. We had it. Brian just said, I'd like to tell you about the space shuttle. Brian, anytime you want to call in and discuss the space shuttle, I know you got something to say. Okay. Yeah. Bee Gees. Everybody's debating that. Yeah. Are they from Australia or not? All right. Yesterday, we're running out of time. Yesterday was a moment. Chris Squire, the bass player and founding member of Yes, passed away in Phoenix, Arizona, of cancer. And it was a heavy moment for me. And I'll tell you why. The album Yes Songs It's a live album. Was one of those things in my collection when I was growing up. Yes Songs was it for me. And it was a live album. And I guess where I'm going with this is when I listened to that and learned it, and I mean, it's just Yours Is No Disgrace, Starship Trooper. Oh, man. And you go and you listen to those songs. It wasn't the drums, you know, it wasn't the keyboards, it wasn't Steve Howe on guitar. It wasn't that stuff for me. It was Chris Squire that made that band. He was the only guy, the only guy from 1968 all the way to the bloody end that was on every single Yes album. He was a founding member, of course, with John Anderson. But he was the glue that held that band together. And it's very tough to do 50 years in the music industry on any level, and he did that. But he set such a standard of musicianship on every level. First off, he looked cool. He dressed cool. He had that great look. Played a Rickenbacker. He had tone beyond tone. And especially 1968, 1970, 1972, when things were really changing in the music industry, and there was all these groundbreaking things that were going on. You know, you're going from the sound of the Beatles and the Dave Clark Five to Jimi Hendrix and Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin and that whole thing that happened in 1969, 1970, 71, 72. It was a new era of music. And Chris Squire was right there at the front of all of it, man. That guy changed so many things on so many different levels. And that album, Yes Songs, I would listen to that, and I just didn't know how guys could write music like that. I didn't know where it was coming from. And I was trying to write, and I was trying to be creative, and I was trying to do and Yes was just completely off on their own. They were able to write hits, and they were also that would appeal to the public, you know, Roundabout. You know, that was a huge, huge hit. And to this day, when you listen to it today, it's as fresh today as it ever was. But they were able to do that and then combine the insane music side, the musicianship for the real hardcore musicians out there, too, as well. It was like we had the best of both worlds. And Yes was a groundbreaking band. And it was Chris Squire that spearheaded all of it. I'm not taking anything away from anybody that was in the band. No, I'm not going there. But Chris Squire was a very, very unique talent. They broke the mold on him, and the thought of them, another Chris Squire coming along, he influenced every bass player out there and guitar player too. He had that thing going on. And so, Chris, you're in a better place. Died at the age of 67, tragically, very, very young. I did have the pleasure to hang out with him here in Hollywood many, many times. And I'm going to tell you, that was a cool dude. And there you go. They're on tour right now with Toto. I guess they're using Billy Sherwood. Billy's another cool guy, another good friend. A Hollywood guy here that's, it's been around for a long time. And I guess Billy is filling in, and there you go. But they played gigs just recently for the first time in, 50 years. It's like crazy without Chris Squire. So there you go. Let's go to the break. It was a hard day yesterday. Chris Squire was a really, really cool dude. And but he's up there rocking it in a whole nother place. And he knows that he left a lot of friends and fans behind. All right, this is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. When I come back after the break, we'll be joined with Serena Wright Taylor on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. I'll be back right after this. Stay with us.
This is
Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Hi, this is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Today, everybody, the Fadernauts and planet Earth is vaping. And I'm very proud to announce our very own e-juice. When we were approached by City of Angels Vapor about Fade to Black e-juice, I wanted to make sure that it was the very best and that the flavors were something that I could create myself. And we did just that. Introducing Fade to Black Fader Loops. This will take you right back to Saturday morning cartoons and your favorite bowl of Fruity Loopy cereal. Just click on the banner or go to www.coavapor.com. Enter the promo code Jimmy for the Fader Not special. That's www.coavapor.com. Go back, Lee Tappy.
Imagine no longer being tied down to your computer, but having the freedom to take live talk radio with you anywhere you go. TalkStream Live introduces our first ever iPhone application. The talk shows you follow now follow you, and your iPhone is now the fastest and easiest way to stay connected to the best talk radio on the internet. Let TalkStream Live transform the way you listen to radio. Listen to live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mobile talk radio from TalkStream Live. Now available in the iTunes App Store.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're of the Honey Brothers.
Yes.
We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
Attention, all Fadernauts. Studio Dome has a special deal on their SD1 Bluetooth speaker. Just go to JimmyChurchRadio.com, click on their banner, enter the promo code Jimmy, and you get $40 off and free shipping on the SD1. It's voice activated, comes with a USB antenna, cables, and a carry bag. Never listen to your phone, tablet, or laptop speakers ever again. It's the only way to listen to Fade to Black. That's JimmyChurchRadio.com. Studio Dome banner, promo code Jimmy. Go back, Lee Tappy. All right, everybody, welcome back. This is Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Yes, it's the Monday edition. All right. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This week is the all-feminine week here on Fade to Black. We're going to get really smart this week. Tonight, Serena Wright Taylor is with us, Dana Dunn. Tomorrow night, Linda Zimmerman. And then on Wednesday night, Betsy Lewis will be joining us. But we're going to kick things off right now with Serena Wright Taylor. Serena is a producer, intuitive Vedic astrologer, and UFO researcher. She is a member of the board of directors, MUFON Orange County. She became interested in UFOs from experiences during her childhood in England, which led her to find out everything that she could about the phenomena. As associate producer for the Conscious Life Expo right here in Los Angeles for the past 13 years, she runs the sections of the expo that cover UFOs, ancient aliens, and conspiracy. She travels to Puerto Rico to research the major UFO occurrences over there and also investigates regularly in her native England. She also spent many years in the Vedic studies and practice. She lived in temples and was initiated as a Brahmin. She is an accomplished Vedic astrologer using a combination of her psychic ability and astrology to assist clients worldwide. I would like to welcome to the program for the first time, and I don't know why we took so long, my very, very good friend, Serena Wright Taylor. Serena, how are you tonight?
Hello, Jimmy. It's great to be with you. I'm feeling great, thank you. It's great to help you start off your all-female week.
Yeah. It's like I said, we only booked the best. It just happens to be all-feminine week here tonight.
Oh, fun.
So we get the feminine side of things. You know, Serena, you and I have known each other for a long time, and I don't know why tonight is the first time that you've been on your show, been on the show. But also, sometimes you're too close to the fire, and you don't. you know what I mean? And
yeah.
you and I, if the audience only knew how much you and I talk every single week. And this summer was a great summer hanging out with you and so forth. But anyway, leaving all that aside, welcome to the show. I'm so fired up, and I'm really happy to finally get you on, because you and I, we talk all the time, and when we do, it's like, we should be doing this show, and we we talk about that all the time. So here we are tonight. Yes. Welcome to the program.
Yeah, I really love your show, and I was saying today to Douglas that I feel so at home. We feel so at home listening to your show, because you understand your audience so much more than so many people. And it reminds me, actually, of when I was a teenager and I used to listen to the pirate radio stations in England.
Right.
And those DJs, they really understood young people, the BBC didn't. And then it was made illegal to have pirate radio stations. Then the BBC signed up those DJs to Radio 1. And then I started working at Radio 1.
Well, and they thought that they would retain that magic that was going on, 12 miles offshore.
Right.
But now you're held to the restrictions of the BBC, and it wasn't the same, was it?
Not quite the same, but some of them, they were kind of independent with their music, and they could choose their own music still. I don't know if it's like that now. I do listen to it sometimes. But some of them just retained that, and we had a great time at the BBC.
I have a question for you before we jump into a conversation. The Bee Gees, are the Bee Gees British or are they Australian?
Oh, as far as I know, they were British. I wasn't a big fan of theirs probably. But, I think they were all from places in England.
Right. And then they moved to Australia, where they got their start in the music. And, that's where everything kicked off for them.
Yeah, probably,
So I just thought I'd start a little fire tonight with our Australian and British audience. Well, I mean, if you're Australian, right? If you're in Australia, you're proud of your music and the things that have come off of that continent, and just some brilliant, brilliant bands. And the Bee Gees got their start there. So do the Australians consider, the Bee Gees their own?
Oh, yeah, no, I don't know. I haven't asked an Australian.
Well, leave it to me to start that fire. But, yeah, because in my own mindset, I just feel like they're from Australia. And I have a friend. He's a singer that was in a great British band called Rainbow. His name's Graham Bonnet. Mm-hmm. And I was talking to Graham one day about, it might have been on this show or privately, I don't know. But I was talking about how he got his career started, and he was talking about Australia, and then he brought up the Bee Gees. And so I always, I don't know, in my bones, I always thought that they were Australian. So, or that they were an Australian export.
Right. And, I never met any of them, but I met some of those bands in the early days when I was a teenager. But no, I didn't meet the Bee Gees, and so I'm not sure.
And I had one other question for you about, you know what, let's move on. It'll come back to me.
Yeah.
But I had another question for you to start off the show that had nothing to do with anything else. But, now, for everybody out there, I start off especially with the new guest. I know that you're used to this now because you listen to the show all the time, but this is just an open-end conversation with friends. We're going to start where we start. We're going to end where we end. And hopefully, Serena, you and I are still friends at the end of the show.
Oh, yeah. We will be.
All right. Now, one day, you and I were sitting having drinks, and you were telling me about your experiences as a child, and what happened to you with your first UFO experience that kind of started you off in life with everything, and it was your epiphany. So, can we kind of start there, because that was a brilliant conversation that we had. And I remember you and I talked for a couple of hours that day on the subject, and I was thinking to myself, I have to remember all of this. So take me back. How old were you, and what city in England, and what happened?
Oh, well, I grew up in Morden in England, which is close to Wimbledon. I was born in Wimbledon. It's in the south of England. Not now, it's actually included in London, but it was in Surrey. And I used to love playing with insects, and I still like insects. I wanted to be an entomologist even when I was 5. So all those years, from when I was a child, I liked to look in the pond and put little larvae and insects and things in jars and study them. And at night, I had something happen which actually makes sense with that. So sometimes there wouldn't be a ceiling. Like I'd either wake up or I'd be going to sleep in that state where you're just in the hypnagogic state when you're just going to sleep.
Right.
And I couldn't see the ceiling, and I would see planets. And it looked like I was looking into a pond, but I was actually looking into space. And in the sky, there would be things that were alive, and there would also be craft. And some of them are round, like the UFOs that we know. Some of them look like wheels. I call them wheels, but we didn't know about space stations in those days, of course. And I didn't even know about, UFOs or flying saucers, as they were called. We didn't even have TV shows, when I was growing up. At least I went to bed before they were on, any space shows.
Right.
Then I saw some beings, too, that looked like sort of dragons, I would call them. But I wasn't scared. It was like, because it was happening in that kind of way, at night, sometimes you have experiences where you're in a situation where you don't have time to be scared. It's just, oh, well, this is happening again. And so I would learn. The main message that I picked up was the sky is like a pond. It's full of life. The planets are full of life. There's craft going from one planet to another, and this is normal. And so that was something I sort of grew up with, and I'd have that dream, so-called dream, now and again. And that got me started in the paranormal. And then I'd also see beings in my room, not necessarily at the same time as that, but they weren't like anything we think about now as ETs. And I'm not saying they were ETs. They were in another dimension. It was like I was seeing into another dimension. So there's some little beings that I call night flitters, and they look like a little bat, but they're not a bat. They can spin, and I always ask people, have you seen these things? Because I'd love to know if other people see them. Right. I still see them sometimes. They spin around sometimes, and they usually come in 2s or more, and they can be, running around or flying around the room really fast, and with kind of leathery-looking wings, but they're not, because they're from another dimension. And they're not bothering me at all. They're just living in their dimension. And then I'd see another being that I call a woad, and I don't see that anymore. So I wonder, did I really see that sometimes? But then when I go back and think about it, it was so real to me. And it looked like a piece of wood. That's why I called it a woad. It looked like a tree without, a tree trunk that had been cut off at the top, and it had eyes in it and a mouth in it. But it didn't move. It would stand still. And then I'd close my eyes, and then I'd open my eyes, and it wasn't there. And I don't know if it was a tree spirit. I don't know. But those are some of the things I grew up with, and that got me interested in the paranormal as I got older.
Could you visit or see these whenever you wanted? Was it like that? I mean...
No, it didn't. It just would happen. No, and sometimes, I would wake up and know there was something in the room, and then I would be, if I felt like, I was completely awake, but my eyes were closed, and somehow I woke up because there was a presence, I didn't want to open my eye, because I knew, like, maybe a woad was there or something.
Right.
Yeah. It's funny.
Well, I don't think there's any question of interdimensional life that is in front of us right now. That is at it's another vibration, it's another wavelength, and we can't see it. But it just, there's no question that they would have to be there. Mm-hmm. So what you're saying is that you had the ability to see this life that was out there that is around us right now.
Yes, yeah, it is. It's always around us, yeah. And the little night flitters, I see them sometimes. But that's what I see.
Any communication of any kind?
Well, I don't have communication from them, because I think they're beings that are just having their life, and I can just see them sometimes. But when I had communication, it was more like classes, which I'm sure a lot of listeners are familiar with. and you might be familiar with when you're having what seems to be a dream, but you're sitting in a class and they make it really seem very much like a class. And some people feel that they're on a ship when they have this experience.
Sure.
I don't know if I'm on a ship or I'm in another dimension, but I learn things. And we see very often a hologram in front of us and it shows different things, or we practice doing some healing or something like that. And I've had those a few times and sometimes really, really strong, where I'll remember a lot of it, and then other times when I don't. And but I feel the information goes in there, and just like a lot of people, I think that I'm, again, some information that I'll need in the future for some reason, or maybe to help somebody, a client or someone, and it'll just come through me, and I'll have learnt it in one of those classes.
Interesting. Well, it sounds like what you're describing, and help me with this a little bit, because this is very interesting. When you say it's like you're looking into a pond and you're looking at all of the life that is there. So it sounds like you're describing almost what you would see if you're walking through the woods, a forest, and you have raccoons and squirrels and birds all around you, that this life is around us constantly in another dimension. A squirrel isn't going to come up and talk to you. Right?
Oh, yes. The ones I had as a child, because the ones that I have at school, I have now too. But the ones I had as a child where I was seeing that exactly, I was just looking out the window. I would compare it to looking out the window, looking at the birds in the garden or something. And, they were doing what they do, and I could see them. And they weren't going to bother me, and I wasn't bothering them. So, yeah, that's what it was. It's just being shown what's around us.
That's fantastic. I mean, no, seriously, that's totally. Well, I've often thought when I see there's a couple of interesting theories out there that have been captured. One is the rods, and some of these, what looks to me like interdimensional things that were captured on video and photographs only for an instant. And I would get these, I get these descriptions from people. Well, it was only there for a second, then it was gone. I don't know where it went. Do you think that's what you were seeing? Yeah,
I was so interested in the rods. When Jose Escamilla started talking about them, I thought, that's what I used to see. And also the kinds of serpent-like UFOs that are seen in Mexico that undulate and they move as if they're alive.
Right.
Those were the ones that I would see. So, I was shown in this, whether it was a hologram or whether I was seeing through the ceiling, I don't know. But it seemed to be that I could see planets close up. So it wasn't just what's right outside my house. But yeah, I would see those undulating kind of beings. And my understanding was that they're living, that they're not just, an outer shell of a craft, but they're alive and they have an independent intelligence. And that's what so many people, even in the military, have said when they've tried to understand any kind of UFO. They said it's so important to understand ESP because a lot of these UFOs are alive and they communicate with the pilot. And that's what, I was actually talking about that recently at UFOCon in the Bay Area. Showing some of those, because like David Adair, when he had his experience at Area 51 and he realized the ship was alive and it had, it looked like fiber optics, but they were also like nerve endings. And when he touched it, it lit up and it felt what he was feeling. And so it interacted, it can interact with people. So I think there's certain technology with these craft or beings that, they're alive and they have an intelligence.
When you walk through the woods, you have your squirrels, you have your birds, and you have, the chipmunks and the things that, aren't threatening to you. But there's also some bad stuff in the woods, too.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel threatened or scared by what you were seeing?
In those experiences, I remember distinctly one where it was like I was in some grass and I was hiding in the grass and I was seeing the sky all lit up with these planets and craft, but then two helicopters came. And of course, again, we're going back to the time when I wasn't studying UFOs. There wasn't anything about black helicopters or anything like that. But these two, it was like I felt like these helicopters were able to see me, like as if they were real. And they, you know, and they could see me in there, and I had to hide. And that's what I was scared of. And it was really interesting, you know, as I've learned about, you know, more recently, of course, about black helicopters and how I used to be scared of seeing them in those, you know, dream sequences or those, you know, experiences when I was a child. But I did see something during the day that was scary, and my parents remembered it really well. And that was, should I talk about that a bit?
Yeah.
That was a being. Yeah, that was when I was at the pier in Worthing, and Worthing's a seaside in England. And, you know, I really liked piers, so I wasn't scared. And I must have been about 2 or 3 because my parents carried me part of the time and I was walking part of the time. And we liked, you know, to go in the pavilion and play some games, and it wasn't at all loud in those days, like it is now, so that it really wasn't scary. But I looked up on the ceiling in the pavilion at the end of the pier, and there was a face looking through the ceiling, and it was almost like a mask, but it was moving, and I could see that the person or the being, who looked kind of human, and it was much bigger than a human face, was very comfortable looking through the ceiling, as if in his world he was the right way up. So, you know, like he had put his head through his ceiling and seen us,
right,
and seen all the people in the room. And what was really scary to me was that I could see him, but it was obvious that no one else could, because they were just walking around and there was children playing there, and he, I think now that he was taking energy, because I felt he was taking something from everyone, but I didn't know what that was. I can see it now in my mind. And then, of course, I was screaming, you know, and I pointed to it.
I was just going to say, weren't you like, don't you see that? Doesn't anybody else see that? Is that what was going on?
And I was pointing, and my parents, I would jump, and my dad picked me up, and my mum was walking ahead, and my hand was out, and I was saying, come back. And she turned around, you know, because I was shouting, and I wasn't the kind of child that shouted much, or I was upset much. And so they took me out of the building, and but they always remember that. And they always said, we know you saw something, because we know when, you know, we were playing around and making something up, and we know you saw something. And they tried to show me there was nothing there. And we went back in the future, and there wasn't. It had gone. It wasn't there. I mean, or I couldn't see it. But at that time, I could see it, and I know what I saw, you know.
At what point did you start to figure out for yourself that you had a gift?
You know, I don't really think it was so much even at school so much. I think it was more when I lived in some temples when I was when I was like 18, 19 and on. So I actually left school early and worked at the BBC a couple of years, and then, well, not really left early. I left at 16, which you can do there in England. And then I was at part-time college, part-time BBC. And then when I was during my 18th year, I moved into temples, and they're Hare Krishna temples, actually, that George Harrison had bought for the Hare Krishna temple, and wanted to study the Vedic way of life.
Right.
And I think at those times is when I really began to notice more, because I had more of a quiet life. And then gradually, you know, we talk about things like my, you know, friends there, especially the girls, we talk about things like tarot cards and stuff. So I would start, you know, finding that I could do those, you know, I could do readings, because I knew that I could see things, but I didn't really think about so much. You know, I would tell my parents which horse might win a race or something, and sometimes I was right, but, you know, it wasn't like I was practicing anything like that all the time. It would just be like I would think, oh, I was lucky, I knew it was going to snow, or something like that.
Well, and the BBC, ultra-conservative, at least that's my vision, so you couldn't exactly tell your friends about these talents that you had. Did you keep it inside?
Oh, at that time, well, you know, I was really into music, obviously, I still am. And I actually, it wasn't so much talking about my abilities as really being interested in spiritual life. And there was a rock band called Quintessence. I don't know if I don't think they really toured America, but they had a guru, and they were when they, they were a rock band, but they would chant mantras and they would sing about spiritual information. And they became my friends, really, and a whole bunch of their dancers and me, we used to dance at their shows and decorate the stage. So, I was really interested in spiritual information and used to talk about that. And at the BBC, really, I think a lot of my young friends were not really conservative. We were all into rock music, and that's why we worked at the BBC. But we didn't, I didn't used to use abilities. I didn't used to think of myself as having all these abilities. But then gradually, when I had, my 20s, I knew a Vedic astrologer who was at the temple, in London, and his wife read tarot, and they both said, "Oh, look at your chart. You should be doing this, what we're doing." And so I started doing tarot readings, and that was working very well. And then gradually, it was funny. I always was sent wonderful mentors. That person was a mentor, wonderful teachers in Vedic astrology. One of them has passed away now. But they always have helped me, just felt like they wanted to help me learn more. And of course, I would combine that with my psychic ability, because there's some incredible astrologers out there, like who've had it, in their family for many generations in India, and I could not be like that. But by combining it with my psychic ability, then I can help people. So really, I meditate on the person, I write notes, I, tune in to my guides and write notes on somebody, and then I look at their chart and see how it corresponds. And then I can look at some timing. So I sort of combine that with the astrology.
Do you have to have somebody in front of you when you do their charts, or not? Or is it better if you do, if you're one-on-one with somebody?
Actually, it's not better if I do. I find it really much better on the phone. I can do it in person, and I used to do that a lot. And but then, they have to find where I am, or, and we have to, sometimes they're late or something like that. But it's so much easier doing it on the phone in front of my computer, looking at the chart, because I work on the person. If they're new, I'll work on them an hour before they even call.
Right.
And if they're an update, I'll have a half hour probably. But then I write my notes, and I'm looking at them by looking at their chart, and I don't need to see them in person, in other words, no.
Oh, I know what I was going to ask you. Oh, there was two questions I was going to ask you. Number one, Chris Squire passed away yesterday from Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask you about Yes, because you and I are the same age, and you're from Britain.
No, I think you're younger than me. I don't know.
I don't know. You look better than I do. But anyway, Yes was. They were so influential here in the United States. They were a global band, but were they just absolutely humongo in Great Britain? Like Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, they
and
were.
the
But I think I was, when they were really well known, I think I was probably in Mexico. I might have still been living in temples at that time when they were really well known. So I got to hear their music, afterwards, sort of thing, after their most famous time.
Right.
But I think they made a big difference. I think they got people to start thinking about, about other planets.
Yes,
and in fact, when Douglas and I got married, we had their Anthem of the Pleiades.
Yes.
I walked down the aisle to the Anthem of the Pleiades by Yes.
Yeah. And that song of their Starship Trooper was something that was very influential. And the other question was David Icke. He was also. Were you guys at the BBC the same time?
No, but I know David Icke really well, and he was. I think he was probably a footballer then, and then he, got to be, a commentator. Yeah.
Yes.
But I've known him more recently, and we have an incredible thing in common because. My really good friend who's passed away now, an older lady called Yeva, Lynn Gladwin, she took him on his first tours when he had his realizations and awakenings.
Right.
And she had some incredible funny stories about, going on tour with David. And she was like a cosmic mum to me, and she was a cosmic mum to David. And also she took Colin Andrews on tour, and she lives in Brighton. Well, she doesn't anymore, but she did. And so I stayed with her a lot. And when my mom passed, I got to know Yeva just by synchronicity, which is one of the most amazing things. A lot of my life is just ruled, I think all of our lives is ruled by synchronicity. If you just watch that, and then you just know what you're meant to do next, you know.
That's exactly, life is all about that. Let's take our first break here, and then we'll be back tonight. Serena Wright Taylor is with us. When we come back, I'm going to talk to her about life at the temples, and I'm going to see if she can read my charts. I'll be back right after this. This is Fade to Black, the Monday edition.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
Hey, everybody, what's up? Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and check this out. The 2015 MUFON Symposium will be held this September 24th through the 27th in beautiful downtown Irvine, California. Expanding ufology, opening new doors in academia, industry, and media. Former Defense Minister of Canada Paul Hellyer will be there in person. Former CNN news anchor Cheryl Jones, TV news journalist Jaime Maussan, and MUFON's chief photo analyst Mark D'Antonio. They're just a few of the growing list of names for the 2015 event. It's September 24th through the 27th at the beautiful Hotel Irvine. Get your tickets today at MUFONSymposium.com. That's MUFONSymposium.com. Go Beckley Tepe.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Did you ever turn to your radio for your favorite talk show to find that it's been preempted for this?
In the air, to deep right center. Back goes Lewis to the wall, and it's out of here!
Or this?
And I'm ashamed of you, Hillary, for voting for it.
Do you have a favorite talk radio program that's not available in your city? Just go to TalkStreamLive.com for links to the best streaming talk radio shows. At TalkStream Live, you will find live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All your favorites are here. With such a large selection, you will also discover some new favorites. On the go and still want to listen? With a mobile smartphone, simply type TalkStream Live on your internet browser. Now you can take internet radio with you. You will also find hundreds of music, news, and sports streams. Best of all, the TalkStream Live directory is free and there's never a login required. Remember TalkStreamLive.com, the fastest route between you and your favorite talk radio show.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
All right, Fade to Black, the Monday edition. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Serena Wright Taylor is with us. Dana Dunn will be joining us at the bottom of the hour. All right. Hey, Serena, when you're... One of the things that you had said to me, and it kind of freaked me out in a way, when you say that, you lived at the temples. You lived there. What was that like? And were you a different person going in? In other words, maybe standoffish, self-assertive, kind of like me. Were you like that going in, or were you the same person going in that left? What changed inside of you?
Oh, interesting. I haven't thought about it that way. I feel like I probably absorbed, like a lot more knowledge. I think that it was good for me as a young person to have some training like that, because I might have got into drugs or other, something that would not have been good for me. As, being in, rock music and so much, going on in London. So I think some of my friends did go that way. But me wanting to have, a really spiritual life, it was really good training for me. And I think that it helped me be, see value in simple life. Even though now probably my life isn't so simple now, but it's good to have that as a child, like that training for a little while, I think, for me.
And just like all parts of society, no matter where you go, whether it's a church or a supermarket, a sporting event, you're going to have the cool people, then you're always going to have those couple of jerks. Was that also what was going on at the time? And if what'd you guys do with the jerks? Did you guys just run them out?
Well, I mean, I wasn't someone who could do that, but yeah, if someone wasn't, if someone wasn't following the principles and just a few basic principles, if they didn't get up early in the morning, for instance, every morning, they could live outside the temple and come visit, because the people who live in the temples kind of live a strict life, like the ancient India and like they do in temples in India, So, they wouldn't be allowed to stay.
and how long? Yeah, exactly. The pressure move. They would be pressured out, I'm sure.
It's funny. I used to kind of be embarrassed to talk that I lived, tell people I lived in temples for years, and then people said to me, "Oh, what a colorful life! That must have been so exotic." And I thought, oh well, maybe I should talk about it.
Totally. Yeah. And, most of us don't have a clue. We read about it, we hear about it. But it's a very, very small part of society that has the conviction and the self-awareness to go and the patience too as well to go and commit. And we all may think that we could do it, but there's only so many people that cross the line and actually make that investment.
Yeah, and Michael Cremo is also my godbrother, so to speak. I think your listeners would know him, ancient archaeologist, or the forbidden archaeologist he's known as. He had the book Forbidden Archaeology. And he still stays in temples and practices much more than me. And of course, he's really gone into the ancient archaeology, and he's expert at it, and talking about, the ancient evidence of the Vedic civilization.
Now, when we talk about these temples, exactly what are we talking about?
The temples now that exist now,
no,
or the ancient ones?
The ones that you spent your time at.
There was London. There is still one in London. George Harrison bought them for the temple, for the Hare Krishna temple, because he was, practicing and very interested in that, Vedic life. And then there was one in the countryside, which is there now too, in Radlett, outside of London. And then I've also lived in temples in America too, and Los Angeles and other ones. In the one in the countryside, it's beautiful. They grow food and they have cows. And of course, in Vedic civilization, they never kill the cows. They always protect them. And they have wonderful milk because the cows are happy. And the calves are never taken away from the cows like they are in factory farming. They have, they stay with their mothers, and then they grow out, they grow up and then they go and play with their other calves. So it's, the Vedic civilization is based on cow protection. And then also, but the most important thing, and even in, the ancient civilization, was the value was always in consciousness, your consciousness, not what you owned or, riches and everything, but the value is placed on self-realization, simple living and high thinking.
Would it be okay to get rich if it just happened?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I just want to make sure. I mean,
you see that, in the scriptures, you learn about the kings, and there's different people. Some people are, administering, some people are living on farms. So definitely, but it wouldn't be that they would be changed by that, or they would be making that the goal of life,
I'm going outside here a little bit, but, somebody that was in the middle of their Vedic studies, right, and astrology, and they're at the time, and they just happen to buy a lottery ticket, right?
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly they're worth $100 million. Would
Yeah, that would be okay.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it would also be most possibly, destined. Sometimes I can see that. When you told me that, I said, yeah, and I'll tell you when.
Right on.
So, I've studied some people who won lottery tickets. I've been studying their charts, and there's certain things. I mean, it's not like you can definitely know, but there's certain things that are going on when someone wins the lottery astrologically.
Now, let's go back to the temple. So, in your meditation and with the other studies that were going on there in practice, out of body stuff through meditation, were you able to master that? Were you able to?
We weren't necessarily learning to do that, but that's happened to me all my life. That I'll leave my body. Usually, sleeping. It happened more as a child. I think sometimes it's a little overwhelming. So I think I don't do it automatically like it used to happen as a child and be a little uncomfortable for me. And I've had, but it's not involved ETs or anything like it has for some people. But I've been, I've walked around the house, and I've gone on, I've sort of been flying to places. You're flying like by yourself, not in a craft, just sort of flying in a ball of light. And I've had things like that happen.
Has meditation helped you with that? I mean, I would assume it comes with, you have to practice.
Well, not necessarily. No, I wasn't really meditating to make that happen or anything. It's just something for me that's happened at times.
Yeah, I remember asking you the same thing that we're talking about now. I remember asking you when you used to do this, was it automatic and was it easy for you? And your response was like, "Oh yeah, no, I've always been able to do it. I've always been able to leave my body."
Yeah. Well, I don't necessarily try to do that now, but and when I was little, it used to happen where I would feel I would move the energy up my body. I didn't know what I was doing. It must be from a past life, and people probably can relate to this. And I would see the top of my head, and I'd be over my head, but I would feel the energy go right up my spine, and the Kundalini move right up. And I've always been able to do that. And if I'm not feeling so well, I'll sort of work with that energy and just automatically I didn't really learn that, and just help myself tune in again, And you can also do that with meditation to get grounded. Because nowadays, I need more to get grounded than I do to leave my body.
Sure. Were you ever able to use it for something? In other words, spy on your family or and I don't mean it in a negative sense, but I mean, did you apply it instead of maybe leaving your body for fun, for sport, which is what I would do, but did you ever use it for something?
I'm thinking about one time when it wasn't really that I was using it. I always feel like I work with my spirit guides, like a lot of us do. We all have spirit guides.
Sure.
And one time I was taken out of my body in a very friendly way. They were carrying me very gently, and it was two of my guides. And they said, "We're going to time travel now." And I said, "Okay," because in that state, I just wasn't scared. And and I said, and first of all, I sort of opened my eyes, and I was in a place that I figured it was France. I don't know why. And I was walking through a house, and I think I might have been looking at a past life place that I was. And And then I walked around the room, and there was glass. Behind some glass, there was some things displayed, and there was fans and some china. And then a lady walked into the room carrying laundry, and she went up some stairs. And I followed her, and I said, "Can you see me?" and she said, and I think she said yes. But it was mental. It was all telepathic. And then I said, "What year is it?" And she said 1880, and I said 1980, and she said 1880. And then I walked around a room, and I saw a mouse in the room, and anyway, I ended up, waking up in my bed again. But what I think I was just learning that, I was going back in time. I don't think I really did anything, but I could have been a past life or something like that.
And do you know why they chose that 1880? Did you ever figure that out?
No, I haven't figured that out yet. No.
That's kind of a crazy 1880.
Yeah.
It's not 1480. It's not 80, but 1880. It's 100 years ago. Why? And why was it France? Did you recognize the house? Was it a house? Yeah, well, she was carrying laundry.
Well, my husband thinks that I was in France in a past life. So, he thinks that I was there. So I don't really have a lot of memories of that so much as, I'll have some other past life memories, India and some other kind of sad ones during the Second World War. I think with our past lives, we can get them in dreams. We get them when we feel really strongly about a time in history, when we're either attracted to something about the clothing or the music, or we're not. We're scared of it. There's various things that happen, and I used to even draw things when I was little that were obviously from another life, things like that. So I think it's helpful to know our past lives and then to heal things that we may, when we remember something, then we can often heal something that might have happened then that's making us fearful in this life.
Right.
Like, for instance, speaking in public, which was always a problem for me, very shy when I was little. And so, when I, realized that it can be religious persecution for many lifetimes, which a lot of people have, because of our beliefs, whether it was religious or just our beliefs, we don't want to open our mouth in public. So, when we realize that, then we can be more comfortable knowing, okay, it's all right to do that in this life. It's totally all right.
Well, I've seen you speak. You seem pretty natural now.
Oh, thank you. I'm getting more used to it.
I wanted to ask you about this. There are certain things that people connect with when they're watching historical movies or paintings or walking through a museum. For me, a little bit with Europe in World War II, there's a certain amount of attraction. But whenever I see anything that has to do with the desert or Egypt, I feel totally natural and at home there. When it comes to Mesoamerica, Western America, I don't have that connection. A little bit with Central and South America, but the draw for me is the desert, the Sahara, Iraq, Syria, Jordan. I feel Israel, Jerusalem, and of course Giza and Egypt too as well. I feel very natural. Is there a reason for that, or is it just because I'm fascinated with it?
Oh, no, I think that you were probably there, in the ancient Egypt civilization. And I really think that a lot of us are back from ancient civilizations in this time. And because it's a time when there's a lot of knowledge all over the world, and it's more of a time of waking up. And in Vedic teachings, there's, the cycles of the yugas. Uh-huh. And although this is called Kali Yuga, which is, more of a time of ignorance and degradation, it is written that and for 10,000 years, there'll be a mini golden age. It's actually mini for 10,000 years, even though it sounds like a long time. Not like the big, great golden age of the past, but a mini one, when a lot of us who were here before, who started our process of awakening and realization, and have come back to finish, our training on the planet, so to speak, so we can go on to higher places. And so I think, the Egyptian age, when people were more wise and you had the mystery schools, and and the Vedic age and Lemuria and all, Atlantis. A lot of us are back now to finish our work, to finish our learning.
Before we get to, and Serena's going to take a quick look, a quick peek at my charts, and so we'll see what's going on with that. What I wanted to always ask you, and I've never had the chance, and here we are now. Mm-hmm. When you, with your contact with ET and what you saw, with descriptions today of the different races and drawings and pictures and so forth, is there? Have you been able to say, yes, that's exactly what I saw, or were you always witnessing something that was a little different?
Well, the ones as a child, they were a little different, the ones that I experienced. And then the other ones, when I'm having those learning experiences, they look very human. They're more like someone in robes, but someone much bigger than us, like a spirit guide or something. Could be an ET. But when we were in Puerto Rico, I did take a photo where I think there's an ET in it. And there's a whole experience we had down there. And of course, my husband, Douglas, he's seen ETs, and I'm sure you'll interview him another day, yes. That were very human looking. But in Puerto Rico, I did a lot of investigation. We met Jorge Martin, the investigator there, yes. And then another time we went on and we took some pictures in a certain place. Shall I go into that story a little bit? So many things I could talk about.
Yeah, I know, but I want to get to my charts too. But I remember you describing when you said when you were little that it wasn't the grays that people are talking about today. You saw something that was completely different, color-wise, height-wise, and description-wise. And I don't think we ever finished that conversation. So that's all. I was just wondering if with everything that's out there, there's so many contactees and so much evidence out there, were you able to correlate and connect the dots, or with who you were in contact with was completely different?
Well, the ones that I saw, I think they were other dimensional beings and not necessarily ETs from another planet, right. So to speak. But then, since then, my experiences, like I said, they've been human, but they're not. They look kind of human. I get the feeling that they look like, again, like we know that what people think of as Pleiadians. But sometimes they're in robes, but they're very tall. They're very much bigger than a human being, the ones that I experienced in those kind of classes. But the other beings, they're not really relating to, like I said, like one of them that looked like maybe a tree spirit or something.
Right.
I haven't really met anyone who's seen one of those, but I'd like to know more about them.
Interesting. Okay, let's go to my charts. What?
Well, you didn't tell me your time.
4:15 a.m.
Yeah, I'd have to. I was going to say, is there going to be one more break when I could put this all in?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, we've got Dana coming on in 7 minutes.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to just try to tell you something quick then, because I have only got the date here. But okay. This is there's a prominent time for you coming up in the next few years. I can tell you that right away. And, we can talk later on when I get more information from you. Sure. But I think, and I felt this on the psychic level, that there's some big things coming for you that are really, really, where you'll become more prominent, and you're very important in the things that are coming up. I really believe, in soul family, what I call soul family. And I think that we have catalysts, people who are like catalysts within all our soul families, where, we all relate to you, and you are interviewing a lot of us who are in the same soul family.
Yes.
And we're all inspiring each other. And I can just say for now, there's some really special big things coming up that are good. And you've been through a difficult time and you've finished that it looked like maybe a couple of years ago, it's been a bit tough for a while, but this is all changing now. This is all changing.
Well, We'll talk off the air. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. When and thank you for that. We'll follow up on this tomorrow morning with our normal phone call in the middle of the day. But when you walk around and when you see people that you don't know, they're passing you on the street, you're at the Conscious Life Expo, there's thousands of people walking around. Do people have light and darkness around them? Can you see auras around people?
Well, I see auras sometimes when I concentrate. So, like if someone is speaking, I'll often just drift off and look at their aura, and it'll be usually really nice, blue and white, and so I usually concentrate when I see an aura. I see things occasionally, but I don't walk around all the time tuning into everybody. I have to think about what I'm doing, so I don't walk around like a sponge. That's not really...
Or a spy. Yeah.
No, I don't do that.
And what if, and tell me the truth now, don't play around. So you meet somebody, right? You've met somebody new, and then they've got this negative aura about them. Do you continue the conversation, or are you just put off? I'll probably politely continue the conversation, but I might not, follow up. If I get a sort of a warning feeling like it's best not to hang out with that person too much, right.
I won't, but I'll do it politely,
And would you find the need to maybe warn a friend of yours? Would you come up to me and go, Jimmy, the guy that you're talking to over there, that dude is deep red. Whatever. I mean, would you tell a friend about the feelings that you have, or do you keep it inside of yourself?
No, with friends, I have done it, especially with partners like new girlfriends or boyfriends. There's times when I've said, that person doesn't feel quite right, and and sometimes they get me their charts, and so I can look if it's a serious relationship or something. But if I get a feeling about somebody, I will tell somebody to help them, to help them out. Yeah.
Yeah. And what about, and we'll end on this. When you're doing somebody's charts, and this is a client of yours that you've had for a while, and you see something bad, what do you do?
Well, I let them know, and it's not really black or white. It's not really like bad and good. It's cycles. So, one thing might be difficult in their life for a short time, whereas something else could be positive. And so there's always something that we can work on. And if something is going slow in one area, finances are going slow, there's always, there's something else that might be going well, relationship or something like that. So it's really good to know our cycles, and we're not pushing for something that is difficult in one cycle when this other thing would be easy. So it's not really yet good and bad like that, all good and all bad. That's not how it is. There's many cycles going on at one time.
We're at the end here, so I just want to say a couple of things. Number one, Conscious Life Expo and the series, it's one of the funnest things and the highlights of my year, being able to go and hang out with all of these wonderful people. I mean, it's not just the speakers. I'm talking about the people that attend Conscious Life. It is just one of the warmest, coolest, funnest things that you can do. And you've been working, 13 years.
Yeah.
There's a magic that happens at Conscious Life. How do you explain that? I mean, it is just a wonderful... And exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's the soul family. Yeah, it's everyone coming together to share information, and it's so incredible. And sometimes we work at it so hard. Our team. I'm just part of a whole team of great people who put this on, and we all work so hard all year, really, to do it. And sometimes I was saying to the executive producer, I just look at the sign, like, those signs on the wall in the Hilton and of what's coming up next in the different rooms, and I have tears in my eyes. I just feel so...
I'm so with you, Serena. I'm so with you. What's coming up next for Conscious Life?
Well, I can't tell you all the people yet because it's not all confirmed. It's going to be incredible next year in February in LAX Hilton. And I have signed Linda Moulton Howe, my friend, my soul sister Linda. She is going to be there with great new information. So we know that. And you are going to be there.
Yes.
And you're going to do the show on Friday from Conscious Life Expo.
Yeah, that's going to be great. And especially if I get to pick my room. If I want that, I want the big room in the basement, the ancient alien panel room. That would be great.
Right.
Hey,
we'll try for that.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll pack that thing. And what about your monthly seminars? Who's coming up next?
Then we're not doing them at the moment. So I think that our producers found, we're all working on the expo. So he's just holding off on the seminars for the moment.
Okay, there you go. Thank you so much, Serena. And I'll give you a call first thing in the morning. I'll wake you up.
Oh, great. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Serena.
Bye.
Serena Wright Taylor. Man. All right. Thank you so much, Serena. That is a smart woman. And you can just go to her website. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com. Click on her name. It's right there. Serena Wright Taylor, thank you so much. Let's take a quick break. When I come back, Dana Dunn will be with us for our first night of the All-Feminine Week right here on Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. I'll be back right after this. Stay with us.
KGRA Radio. Intelligent talk.
Are you a paranormal investigator, ghost hunter, or UFO skywatcher? If so, FNGinnovations.com has the product you definitely need in your investigations kit or go bag. Introducing the Morpholite Wide Beam Tactical Flashlights that put the light where you need it most. Traditional flashlights shine a focused round beam with limited line of sight in the dark. Morpholite Tactical Flashlights change all that, utilizing a revolutionary wide beam design to enable you to see safety hazards such as hanging wires and steel, pipes, and holes in the floor you just can't see with a focused round beam. In the field, where safety is paramount, a 180-degree beam increases orientation and peripheral vision in the dark. Morpholite flashlights are ideal for investigations in abandoned facilities such as houses and hospitals, factories, caves, and tunnels. Avoid those low-hanging tree branches that poke your eyes in the woods. Visit FNGinnovations.com to see a full line of tactical lights and accessories. That's FNGinnovations.com.
Now you can find all your favorite talk radio shows live, all in one place at TalkStreamLive.com. Listen from anywhere, office, home, or in your car. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com and click on one of the many live talk show hosts you want to listen to. It's free and easy. No computer? Download the smartphone apps. Never miss your favorite talk show. Find them all at TalkStreamLive.com.
Hey, everybody, what's up? Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and check this out. The 2015 MUFON Symposium will be held this September 24th through the 27th in beautiful downtown Irvine, California. Expanding ufology, opening new doors in academia, industry, and media. Former Defense Minister of Canada Paul Hellyer will be there in person. Former CNN news anchor Cheryl Jones, TV news journalist Jaime Maussan, and MUFON's chief photo analyst Mark D'Antonio. They're just a few of the growing list of names for the 2015 event. It's September 24th through the 27th at the beautiful Hotel Irvine. Get your tickets today at MUFONSymposium.com. That's MUFONSymposium.com. Go Beckley Teppy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
All right, welcome back. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Do follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Yeah, I don't know how we pulled it off, but this is our all-feminine week here on Fade to Black. Thank you, Serena Wright Taylor, Dana Dunn tonight, tomorrow night, Linda Zimmerman, and Wednesday, Betsy Lewis. Of course, Thursday will be our Fade to Black Rock and Rule Trivia Challenge. Dana Dunn. Before we get started, I will say this. Dana and I, a bunch of other speakers, but we did a seminar a couple of months ago, and I sat and listened to Dana's presentation and came away from that. I was mesmerized, and I couldn't do anything. The only thing that was on my mind was getting Dana on this show to share her knowledge and the way that she presents it to everybody. That was my focus. And we pulled it off, and tonight she's with us. So everybody, just get comfortable. This is what this radio show is all about. And I'm very excited about having Dana Dunn on with us. She is a PhD. She is known for her work as a professional intuitive counselor, medium, and channel for the last 28 years. And she has worldwide clientele. Every time that I talk to her, she's busy. Tonight, she's with us. She has a PhD in metaphysics. She's a graduate of the International College of Astrology and is a certified clinical hypnotherapist. She has studied ancient schools of thought such as the Kabbalah, alchemy, astrology, numerology, tarot, Taoism, I Ching, occult sciences, angels, biblical studies, the keys of Enoch, keys of Solomon, stargates, and the biblical allegory that is in metaphysical terminology. She has been featured in many magazines, TV shows, leads tours to sacred places, and teaches classes to help others discover their higher self while honoring each individual's spiritual path to illumination and wholeness. And I would like to welcome to the program for the first time, Miss Dana Dunn. Dana, how are you tonight?
I'm doing great, Jimmy. Thanks for having me on your show, and I'm so glad you enjoyed my lecture on those interesting angels. They are interesting characters indeed.
You know, I got to tell you, Dana, it is, and you know, I was hosting that day, so you know it's a long day, and to concentrate, and you know, and I'm thinking about it. You had me, young lady. You had me at the word go. And I sat there, and I felt so much smarter after you left the stage, and it was just an honor to listen to you speak. But this is the thing, and I told you this after, and I that's why I was so excited to finally get you on the show. The way, please don't take this the wrong way. You're very, very smart, but it's another thing to get. Not smart's the wrong word. You're learned, I should say. So, you know, to get that knowledge back out, to get what you know back out to the masses is a difficult thing, but you are able to do that. And for a guy like me, I'm not the smartest guy, in the room, but I was able to absorb everything, Dana, and you've got a real talent for sharing your knowledge. And I know you hear it every day. But I got to tell you, it's just enlightening to sit and listen to you speak.
Well, thank you so much. I really enjoy sharing the information. You know, I believe there's power in knowledge, and I like sharing it and helping people begin to make the core relationships between things. You know, when I first delved into the angels, you know, I started to realize, you know, some of them were kind of like superheroes. You know, they had their names by day and then these alter identities equally with their superhero abilities, and it made it fun to do the lecture because, you know, they're so, how do we say it, kind of misunderstood sometimes, and, you know, oftentimes I don't think people understand the information about angels. You know, we kind of think of them one-dimensionally, you know, they're guardians and they're protectors and they're this, but boy, there's a plethora of wisdom in reading the knowledge about them and having the understanding of how each of them interplay into the different roles and the different source origin stories and So, when I first started, I started with, of course, one of the more famous ones, Enoch, who was just a human who supposedly, by, the grace of the angel Haniel, was transported to heaven. But while he's in heaven, Enoch, who, according to the Jewish legend, was a mortal, but upon his arriving in heaven, he's transformed into a spirit of fire equipped with 36 pairs of wings, and he gets a new name, Metatron. So, it's kind of like Clark Kent, he's a reporter by day, but, he's Superman. And so, that same setting kind of between the story of Enoch becoming Metatron, and, he has later associations with the Persian Mithras, which takes him into a whole nother genre of information. But, he certainly came back to Earth and wrote in, the Book of Enoch some incredible tales of his journeys into heaven and meeting all the other angels and all the other interesting characters. And so, I love sharing that story because I don't think a lot of folks are aware of the connection between Enoch and Metatron, and there's a huge connection there. And then, Metatron, who also, guarded the Temple of Solomon, and supposedly also was the flaming sword that barred the gates of Eden. So then that takes us back to the source origin stories, of course, as I had described in my original lecture of the interesting tale between, Lilith and the angel Samael, who goes by all kinds of interesting names, such as Set, who was, later replaced by the occult of Osiris, and Set getting a little upset later becomes Typhon, and, Typhon is part of the Seraphians, part of the flaming serpents. So you have all these interesting beings who, the angel Samael, who, hooked up with Lilith in the original Garden of Eden before it was placed with a brass sill an iron ring to fill out the old tree in order for the new tree to be resurrected from the root of the old tree. So you have all these really interesting angels who are being intrinsically involved in the original Garden of Eden story, who later are, in the 19th dynasty kings, of Egypt, where Set came in under the name of Samael originally, and then Set or vice versa. Set winds up, the 19th dynasty kings rejoice calling themselves the beloved of Set.
Right.
And Set's story in ancient Egypt in the Book of the Dead, goes back to he dwelt with the gods in the Anu, the heavenly Anu. So again, an angel who finds his way into a human identity and a human story later becomes seated among the gods, and later becomes even known as Typhon, who supposedly was a flaming monster with 100 heads who rose up from his mother, the earth, to challenge the gods. So again, we have an interesting tie between Samael, who is Set, who is Typhon, and the Egyptian stories, who made his way, into the biblical side of being connected to Lilith. And, he kind of, Samael the angel, fornicates with Lilith, which then, poor Adam didn't get a chance because Samuel beat him to it. And
right.
You have all this interesting behavior of these angelic presences, but, you also have an interesting revelation that these beings are, mortal originally, then becoming something more than mortal, and then, traveling, into the heavens. So,
well, I have to jump in here, Dana, and I knew that you were going to do this, and we did it early on. I'm watching Twitter. Huh? Enoch was Metatron? What? Right. Okay, this is blasting by in Twitter right now. So I don't think we can quite let that go. Let that blow past us. So explain to the audience exactly the transition and what we're talking about.
Yeah. So as far as Enoch becoming Metatron?
Yes.
Yeah. So when Enoch, was taken up to heaven, according to Jewish legend relates that Metatron, while still Enoch, a mortal, arriving in heaven, he was transformed into a spirit of fire and equipped with 36 pairs of wings. So Enoch basically is transported to heaven, according to the book of Enoch, with the help of Hanael, which is an angel. And so this angel Hanael is credited with transporting Enoch to heaven. And while Enoch is in heaven, according to Jewish legend, Enoch the mortal, once he arrives in heaven, he becomes transformed into a spirit of fire, equipped with 36 pairs of wings, and is given, obviously, the title of Metatron. And, according to the Book of Enoch and some of the Jewish legends, Metatron becomes the tallest angel in heaven. So then we have to, kind of wonder, okay, what happened to him? And Metatron becomes the link between the human and the divine. And according to source origin stories in Gustav's book about angels, he is the person who will take charge of souls at resurrection. So it's just kind of interesting because Enoch becomes a scribe. He becomes this link between human and the divine, and that's why I kind of use the metaphor like Clark Kent and Superman.
Right. He was the voice for God, too, as well.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Now, this is something else. When I saw your presentation there, I was taking mental notes, and one of them, and I certainly, when I have scholars on, I try to clarify a few of my thoughts and beliefs, too, and theories. But when all of the, it doesn't matter what continent that we're dealing on and transoceanic cultures and so forth, every culture seemed to point to the stars when they refer to gods and angels and communication, that everything came from above. Do you think, and not necessarily to tie in ancient alien theory, that may be too broad, but do you think it was an ET connection, a universal connection?
Oh, I think with the amount of years that I've been doing the research and the studying, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that there is a definite, what name we give it, it's been known by many names, some. And I'm not saying that there's still not a godlike force at the very source of all the universe. Certainly there can be, and in my point of studies, I can't rule that out one way or the other. But I can certainly say that it appears in the different texts that I have studied and I have read that I think we could say ETs easily could have been angels, and that angels could have easily been ETs. And I think there's enough historical evidence in, sacred sites and different things to definitely say something was going on at that time between, heaven and earth. And, as an alchemist and a hermeticist, there's a statement that says, as above, so below, as within, as without. It's like, so obviously we're able to make this connection, because for centuries people, from many different groups, whether it's a religious group or a spiritual group, without listing names, but all of them say they've had visitations by angelic presences, have heard angelic voices, and, divulging many great things, onto these individuals. So could that be an ET connection as we think of it today, as something extraterrestrial from here? I would have to say absolutely, because obviously it's happening from an outside entity or source, and because some of them sometimes can make themselves visible to the individual, and then sometimes it's just kind of like the Vulcan mind meld. They're just speaking to you through consciousness. So then when it's speaking to you through consciousness, that would have to imply something off-planet a bit, because it's not like you and I are sitting here tonight talking, and we know that we're both earthlings, and we know that we're both physical and we're here.
Right.
When you have that connection to, I remember once working in an ancient Hebrew text, and it took me months to try to be able to even read this. I had to learn to read Hebrew, and needed to learn Hebrew words, so I got myself a tutorial to do so. And so one night with my magnifying glass and this big book, I sat down in front of it and started to read the Hebrew words, and all of a sudden they flashed off of the page and they became flaming letters, and they rearranged themselves. And, much to my own shock, I'm like, what the heck's going on here? I need to write this down, because these letters have rearranged themselves. And when I realized in the rearranging of the text, I had read about this a lot in different metaphysical books, that oftentimes the ancient sages and that would write things, and it's even stated in Scripture in the Bible, there will be those who have the eyes to see. So sometimes it's a shift in consciousness that allows you to see what's really being written there. And, when I had found that passage in the Bible, and when I had it literally, physically happen to me while reading a text, I went, oh my gosh.
Right.
How many more books are written this way, that it requires just this slight shift of consciousness, just a change in the consciousness, to be able to see the real words, So even in Scripture and Proverbs, it says, when I consider the dark sayings, so it's like, well, what are these dark sayings? What are these things, And how can we have the eyes to see, what is required of us? So that same statement goes with contact with whether we call it ETs or, these angels. And, even Enoch in his book says, there were 200 angels who came to earth, corrupting creation by teaching men. And so, so something came to earth, and that's something we call angels, but, could that same something be what we call today ETs? I'm going to have to say yes. I think there's, even in Scripture, there's the mention of different stars and The Pleiades is mentioned a lot in Scripture, so is Orion. Why that connection? Why put it in there at all if there isn't something bigger? Because what I found in most of ancient books and most of the source origin stories, people back in that time were pretty busy just trying to survive.
Right.
And I don't think they ran around going, hey, let's make up story hour because we have so much spare time today.
Right.
I just don't think so. I think they were pretty darn literate. And, hey, Joe, did you see that burning bush over there? And, Joe turns to him and goes, yeah, dude, I saw that burning bush. What the heck do you think that was? And so I think these source origin stories, as much as we want to write them off as myths, and, they thought it was myth until archaeology found the city of Troy. Well, it's not a myth anymore. And I think a lot of these connections to these beings, whichever names we give to them, and it seems to me a lot of them have very interesting, cool names, and a lot of their names have, kind of interesting secret meanings, For instance, Sachiel means the covering of God. Well, what the heck does that mean? And Kasiel means the knowledge of God or the speed of God. Kamiel means he who seeks God, he who sees God. So, so then when you're reading some of the scripture and it's like, for instance, if we want to take it into biblical scripture, Luke says, ask and it shall be given, seek and you shall find, knock and it shall be opened to you. Well, I guess if I were going to seek so I could find, I guess I would be dialing up Kamiel, because Kamiel's name means he who seeks God. But the interesting thing in Kamiel's name, Kamiel is the angel who replaces Samael in the original story of Samael hooking up with Lilith, and that being a no-fly zone, So it's interesting, when we begin to see, Raphael, he governs, he's the overseer of the evening winds, and, he's the guide in the underworld. So you have all these angels with interesting titles of talents and skills and skill sets that they're able to do. And I think it would be very hard to not say that these beings could absolutely have been ETs in answer to your question. I think without a doubt.
We're going to be up against our first break here in just a second. But before we do that, you kind of touched on this earlier about the secret knowledge of transformation. Is that hidden in the Keys of Enoch?
Well, yes, but if you wanted to really research the true art of transformation, I think there's interesting statements, certainly in the Book of Enoch, certainly the Torah has some interesting, but a lot of the Kabbalistic writings can tell a person, how to have this metamorphosis, how we're able to change. We have three bodies. We have the physical body, we have the spiritual body, and then we have the soulic body. So, for some people who maybe want a little more contact, well, there are ways to have that contact. And all it requires is to build the temple, and you're the temple. And it's just, discipline, devotion. We all have this birthright, and it's sitting latent within us. And we all have this right to our inheritance, to tap into this birthright. They make the statement, what is it? We use only like 10% of our brain. Well, what the hell are we doing with the other 90% of it? And how do we tap into that 90%? if we follow in the footsteps of those who have had these experiences and know, they tell us, meditation, understanding the portals, how to enter the portals, how to connect once you get in there. And I don't think all these sacred sites were just calendars, I think some of them were tuned to musical pitches. And I think if you have the right harmony and you know what you're going in for, you're going to have a much different experience than a person who just pops down and begins to meditate and says, I'm at a spiritual side.
Right.
These sites were calibrated numerically, to sound, color, and vibration. And we're tuned that way. And so, it's a really fabulous journey when we begin to expand our consciousness. And in order to do that, sometimes the hardest part, like I even tell a lot of my students, is you have to forget everything you think you know. And you have to forget everything you think you've learned. Because there's a process of letting go of all that we've been taught and we think that we know in order to adapt to, kind of like that statement for those who have the eyes to see.
Sure.
You have to kind of shift your own thinking. And that's hard to do sometimes because we've been so preconditioned.
Let's take that break. We're up against a hard break here. So let's get this out of the way. We're speaking with Dana Dunn. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, bespoke radio for the masses. When I come back, I'm going to ask Dana about the connection of ancient civilizations that they had with themselves without the distractions of modern technology today. We'll be back right after this. Stay with us.
KGRA Radio. Intelligent talk.
Are you a paranormal investigator, ghost hunter, or UFO skywatcher? If so, FNGinnovations.com has the product you definitely need in your investigations kit or go bag. Introducing the Morpholite Wide Beam Tactical Flashlights that put the light where you need it most. Traditional flashlights shine a focused round beam with limited line of sight in the dark. Morpholite Tactical Flashlights change all that, utilizing a revolutionary wide beam design to enable you to see safety hazards such as hanging wires and steel, pipes, and holes in the floor you just can't see with a focused round beam. In the field, where safety is paramount, a 180-degree beam increases orientation and peripheral vision in the dark. Morpholite flashlights are ideal for investigations in abandoned facilities such as houses and hospitals, factories, caves, and tunnels. Avoid those low-hanging tree branches that poke your eyes in the woods. Visit FNGinnovations.com to see a full line of tactical lights and accessories. That's FNGinnovations.com.
Now you can find all your favorite talk radio shows live, all in one place at TalkStreamLive.com. Listen from anywhere, office, home, or in your car. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com and click on one of the many live talk show hosts you want to listen to. It's free and easy. No computer? Download the smartphone apps. Never miss your favorite talk show. Find them all at TalkStreamLive.com.
Hey everybody, what's up? Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and check this out. The 2015 MUFON Symposium will be held this September 24th through the 27th in beautiful downtown Irvine, California. Expanding ufology, opening new doors in academia, industry, and media. Former Defense Minister of Canada Paul Hellyer will be there in person. Former CNN news anchor Cheryl Jones, TV news journalist Jaime Maussan, and MUFON's chief photo analyst, Mark D'Antonio. They're just a few of the growing list of names for the 2015 event. It's September 24th through the 27th at the beautiful Hotel Irvine. Get your tickets today at MUFONSymposium.com. That's MUFONSymposium.com. Go Beckley Tepe.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Fade to Black. Yes, I know it's strange. We only have the best and the brightest guests on this show, and this week, it's all feminine all the time. Yeah. Right now, we have Dana Dunn with us. Dana, yeah, it's kind of funny, isn't it? It's all feminine week here on Fade to Black. And, and you and I were talking about that earlier today, and it's just funny. The best and the brightest are on this show, and it wasn't planned that way. It's just the best this week are women, and and I like that point of view. And one of the things, before we get back on the subject, one of the things that I find, and I would just love your insight on this, I find that when it comes to intuitiveness and the ability to connect with emotions, I think that I think women have a better ability to do that. Why is that? Why the ability to not only channel but to see inside of somebody and to connect with emotion? It comes from the feminine. Why is that?
I think it's twofold, and I think it's funny you mentioned that because I had just recently read an article that some university had did a study about, why women have more intuition than men, And I think it's because we give birth, and I know that sounds like a little bit of a cop-out, but I think it's because, once that mothering instinct is in women, even if they don't have children. And I think women allow themselves to be vulnerable. Having worked with so many clients over the years, with men, from the time men were programmed and born, they were told, be a man, don't have emotion, be tough, be a hunter-gatherer, And so men shut down that emotional side of their nature. And then, the terrible thing for men, I feel bad for them because then they meet women or they meet someone else to love, and it's like, show me your emotions. And men are like, that puts me in an awkward place.
Yeah, we don't have
it. I'm supposed to be a man, I'm not supposed to show this emotion.
Right.
And so I do think it is the emotional feminine body, whether it's male or female, because there are some men who tap into it and have it, but it does require having that vulnerability. That ability to be vulnerable, I think, increases intuition immensely. Having been a channel most of my life and have channeled for people all over the world, it requires a level of vulnerability. And it does require an exchange of energy between two people.
Yeah, history, it is kind of strange because when you look back, there's almost a double standard there, too, as well, Dana, in that the portrayal of, now I'm just being very generic here, but, witches or soothsayers or channels or visions of the future or the past, and all of that has always been feminine, but yet alchemists are always masculine. You never see when actually they're dealing with the same sort of esoteric, but then there's always the masculine side of it. You know what it's weird how...
I do. I'm only laughing because it's so funny how in history there were the feminine alchemists also. They're lesser known.
Right.
And many of them were killed off. When we switched from matriarchal, well, it actually started between the Ra and the Amun-Ra, the monotheism. When we switched from matriarchal to patriarchal, it seemed like all the feminine wizards, alchemists, sorcerers, whatever incredible name, interesting names we want to give them,
right.
They all kind of died off. And for the longest time, women weren't allowed to write. They weren't allowed to ascribe to the written word. So it is fascinating, when we think of it historically today, how far we have come and how far we're still growing, and recognizing that there doesn't need to be, that everything can be oneness. It doesn't have to be masculine or feminine.
Right.
It's just, again, I go back to that statement, a shift in consciousness, the ability to recognize that, I think my hero, I love Bob Marley, and I think he said it great, inside every man's chest beats a heart. And I think when we can get to that type of thinking and recognize that inside of us, we're all programmed the same. It's just the consciousness that needs to shift. And when we can begin to adapt our consciousness for more liberalness, and not necessarily moral liberalness, but liberalness in the possibility that a lot of things are possible. The minute we shift our view, the minute we shift our consciousness, everything is attainable. And I think that's the best part with alchemy and hermeticism and the occult sciences is they teach people that. And then things begin to happen internally to you where you're, and I mean this literally, your heart just begins to swell open with so much love inside that it's so hard to not have that. And then that only aids in that connection to these divine beings or, to extraterrestrial communications or connections. I mean, who wants to communicate with someone who's hostile?
Yeah, yes. And which is exactly what I was talking about before the break with ancient civilizations. And we can go back 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 years where they didn't have the distractions of modern society. Simple things like cell phones and the internet or television, movies, whatever, even books for that matter. But things that pull you off of consciousness, morality, where that's all that they did. That was their mass media back then, was self-improvement, looking at the self. And is that why we have lost track of the self today, where now we're going in so many different directions everywhere except looking inside of ourselves? Do you think that's what it is? Do you think it is mass media and modern and jobs and insurance and child support and laws and all these distractions of modern society? Was it just a simpler time where they were able to focus on themselves?
I don't mean to interrupt you here, but I agree with you. Absolutely. We have so much distraction today. The eye can only perceive so many pixels. Scientists did research on this, and we have in our graphics today pixels that are exceeding even what the eye can perceive.
Right.
And we have computers now that are wired faster than our brains can translate. So there's going to come a point where we're going to exhaust ourselves. And maybe the good news is in that exhaustion, we'll get back to the chorus of nature that we've lost. Think of it centuries ago. I always think of this whenever I'm out under a desert sky communing. And it's amazing how much closer the stars were back then, to our own planet. The universe is expanding. And so think back in their day, like you said, they didn't have cell phones, computers, technology. They were communing tremendously with the environment around them, communing with nature and her elements and her secrets that she holds, and the heavens were so much closer that it would have been hard to have not felt this connection to something greater than self. And today we've lost that connection, and we've almost become, even in our architecture, You know, we've lost this sacred symbology that are hidden in lots of ancient architectural buildings, which tell our history of our unfolding. We've lost that connection, and we've created even in our buildings where they're just simply mirrors. So all we're seeing is ourself. We're not seeing beyond ourself. And when we can't, you know, there's another really great, you know, I'm just going to say it, a great reggae tune that says, you know, without a vision, the people will perish. They'll see no further than their needs.
Right.
When we cannot see beyond ourselves, we tend to lose that connectedness to our sacred past and, you know, our inheritance and our connectedness. And when we, you know, pretty soon, you know, it's a scary thought, but there is reverence here. You know, people don't even communicate with each other anymore. You know, people are texting each other all the time. They're not using their voice. Well, your voice is a muscle. It needs to be exercised. And when it's not exercised, pretty soon we could fall back into the dark ages because we'll lose our ability to speak.
Right.
You know, so I'm a pro-advocate for tuning in and turning off. And I think it's amazing when we do that. You know, it's called entering the voice of silence. And, you know, I would love to share this with your audience because it's so cool and anybody can try it and have the experience. But, you know, if you want to enter the voice of silence and really feel that connectedness to these off-planet energies, just sit in a semi-dimly lit room. Don't get yourself too comfortable, and you're not really going to go on a meditation. You're going to discipline your thinking mind, and you're going to put a candle in front of you, and you're going to let your mind do what your mind does best. Because what your mind's designed to do is to catalog and question everything. So the mind's going to be like, oh, it's a candle, it's made out of wax, it's in a glass jar, it's got a wick, it's hot, the flame's hot. And then the mind is going to say to you, oh, come on, Dana, quit staring at that candle, I'm getting bored. But don't give in to that mind. Keep staring at that candle and don't let your thoughts go anywhere but to that candle. And in a few moments of doing it, and it might take a couple of tries, all of a sudden you'll feel yourself floating backwards, and you'll catch yourself. And when you do, that's that groove between the two worlds. Remember how that felt. Then you can begin to do it at will. But in the first try, go back and start all over again, stare at the candle, shut the mind down, and eventually what the mind does, it'll go in a sleep mode because it gets bored, it gets tired, and then all of a sudden you'll begin to hear the voices. For some people, they'll hear voices. For some people, they'll see visual. I've had experiences literally in my living room where it rained. It's so cool. And it just requires us to silence the chattering mind. The mind just wants to chatter, and it's good at it. And in order to become intrinsically intuitional, you have to learn to silence the chattering mind and listen to the intuition which comes through the heart. And that's why in Egypt, you know, the heart was a very important part of their source origin stories. You know, your soul was measured against the weight of your heart.
That's right.
You know, so, you know, it's so powerful because it's these little exercises that your listening audience can do, and then they can have the experience for themselves, and then they can gauge it and judge it against their own experience. You know, oftentimes, even with the best occult books on the topics, try to remember you're reading someone else's experience. Your experience may be very different than their experience. So you can read the guidelines so that you get a feel and an idea, but try to understand you may not have that same experience, and it doesn't make you a failure. You're having your own experience, and each of us have gifts, you know.
Right.
Even in 1 Corinthians in the Bible, it lays out, I think it's 1 Corinthians starting right around chapter 13 somewhere, you know, it talks about everybody's given a different gift. Everybody has a gift. You just gotta play with it, you know. I've been fortunate enough that this lifetime I've had the gift of vision and clairvoyance and audio clearance, clairvoyance. But it got better as I began to discipline that chattering mind. And then, I've had, as you and I discussed earlier today, I've had some incredible experiences with, I guess we would like to call them ET experiences. And, a lot of people maybe wouldn't believe me, and a lot of people might be like, oh, it's all in her head, or it's this, and it's like, trust me, it's not.
Right.
And I'm not, I don't have any, medical history of insanity. These things have happened, and they've happened to greater and better people than myself. But the cool thing is, to have the experience yourself will begin to make you understand how important it is for us to reconnect to that something greater that's been placed in us, whether it's the seed of God, the seed of creation, whatever it is, it's powerful. And once you begin to do that, I remember telling you when we first talked, I told you, I said, oh, wow, Jimmy, I don't wear watches and I don't do computers very well because I tend to mess them up.
Right,
watches
right.
tend to sit around me, and computers tend to get a mind of their own. And it's just bizarre, But I believe that has everything to do with frequency, vibration.
I have to ask you, you are at your very core, you've already said the word cool about 20 times in the last 20 minutes. You are very cool. Were you walking around at the age of 10 this cool? Were you always like that? Was your nature always like this, or did you find this part of you?
No. I would like to, I'll tell you just a fast, brief, weird, interesting part of my life. When I was a little kid, I drowned at 2. I don't remember it. Family members talked about it. I don't remember it. What I do remember from the time being a child, I could hear people's thoughts. I could hear their conversations, and I would tell my mom, like, hey, Mom, that lady's saying this and that. My mom would tell me, Dana, it's not nice to eavesdrop.
Really?
Yeah, and I would tell her, I don't mean to, Mom, I can just hear this. And, I had great parents. I had great parents. But my mom, when I was about the age of 5, I kept telling her, hey, Mom, do you see my friend over here? And my mom's like, I'm sure my mom at some point was like, oh, great, I have an interesting kid, But she never made me feel different for it, and she almost embraced it. My mom liked astrology and some of the occult things, although she was not occult herself. But when I was a kid, I was always having conversations with, this guy named Gabriel. And, he would come and he would visit me all the time. He would visit me at night. He would visit me. I would be having these conversations with him all the time. And so my mom would be like, oh, that's lovely, honey, that's wonderful. But here's the weird thing. At the age of 15 was the age when I started getting into studying some of the deeper studies. And my whole life, I used to, even when I was a kid, I would tell people, my sisters used to razz me all the time, and you probably will after I've been on your show. People say I talk a lot. And I used to tell my sisters when I was just a kid, 6, 7 years old, I would tell them, God gave me a mouth and I intend on using it. And I came here to help people. And that's all I want to do. I just want to help people. I love people. And I think people are exciting. And I think we have so much to share with each other. And so then as I kept growing, interesting things kept happening to me as a kid. One of my favorite playtimes, and I wrote this in our family history book, and my sister, who was the genealogy expert, got all upset because she thought it was stupid I was writing. And I said, future generations need to know this. What if they have the gift? They won't feel alone then. But when I was a kid, I used to dive into our pool in our backyard, and I'd hold on to the bottom of the grate. And when I came up out of the pool, I would be in a whole different dimension. I would be in this temple. All these people were wearing white. There were pillars. And I would sit, and I would talk to them for hours. And then I would jump back in the pool, go to the bottom of the pool, come up on the other side, and I'd be back home.
Wow.
And that was what I did in the afternoon. And, so then as I kept getting older, I kept having other weird experiences, out-of-body experience, other weird things. So one day I walked into an occult store, and this guy, and this is in the South Bay area, and, this guy said to me, he said, "Oh, welcome home." And I'm thinking, okay, this guy's a little creepy.
Right.
I don't know what he's talking about. And long story short, he said something to me that only I knew, that only I had known as a child. And I turned to him and I said, "How could you know that?" And he said, "We've been waiting for you to come home," right? Well, that wasn't the first of all conversations I've had in my life. I was at a gym show with my father in Arizona when his interesting guy walks up to me. He says the most interesting things to me. He, disappears 2 years, and his statement to me was, "I'll find you again." 2 years later, this guy shows up out of nowhere, and my dad, who was such a loving, trusting, open guy, is like, "Oh, yeah, we should go do this." And I'm like, "No, we shouldn't. I don't think we should, Dad." This guy's like, "Oh, I have this really cool gemstone, this huge geode. I'd love to show it to you and your dad." And my dad loved the geodes, all the crystals and gemstones. And my dad's like, "Yeah, we'll go." And I'm like, "No, Dad, I don't think we should go." Well, what wound up happening between me and my dad, and up till the day he passed away, we kind of laughed about it, was we couldn't account for 2.5 hours. We remember walking into this house, but neither one of us could tell you what happened. And I was the first person who came out of the trance-like state, and my dad was sitting there in a totally trance-like state, and I walked over to him, and I'm like, "Dad, come on, wake up. We got to get out of here." And so this guy said to him, "I'm so glad you made it, and it was nice to visit you and your dad. I'll see you again." And I'm like, what is it with this guy? This is so weird, and the things that keep happening. Well, the weird thing was, I wind up running into this guy 2 other times. The weirdest stuff went down when I ran into this guy. But then I wind up going with Serena to Pagosa Springs, and we wind up in a community where I'm trying to tell Serena, a lot of these people are off planet. And her and I wind up having 15 to 20 minutes missing time. We were coming back on the road to go back to where we were staying. And, I was the driver, and the guy gave us great directions. And he said, on your right will be the river, and on the left will be the mountains. You can't get lost. When you leave here, just remember, the mountains will be on your right, the river will be on the left. But coming home, the river will be on the right, the mountains will be on the left.
Right.
There's only one gas station that's open kind of late. And he says, all you got to do is look for the lit-up gas station, and then you're going to turn left there, and you'll know your way back.
So
we're almost back.
Yeah, this sounds like
Serena and I can see the gas station in the distance. I'm like, we're almost there.
Right.
And the next thing, there is no gas station.
Right.
We wind up winding up in the middle of town, had to turn the car around and go all the way back to the gas station. I cannot account for that missing time.
Right.
So, all of my life I've had some bizarre experiences that kind of got me to dig deeper and deeper and deeper. And then it was, in studying a lot of the Greek. As a kid, I loved mythology. Couldn't read enough of it. And I just would always tell my mom, there's something more here. There's something else going on here. And, and then that just fueled the fire for a young girl who had a passion. I wanted to know. I wanted to understand why it was I was able to hear what people were thinking. I wanted to know why it was I could sense when people needed help. I wanted to understand myself, not necessarily trying to understand anything else, but just trying to understand my own human oddities. And the further I went down the rabbit hole, the better it just kept going. And, you know, I'm 57 years old now, and I'm still in the rabbit hole. You know, I can't seem to let go of the journey because it's just been so incredibly fascinating with so many interesting affirmations and twists and turns that sometimes I even have to sit with myself going, wow, nobody would believe this. Sometimes I have a hard time believing it.
Sure. Hey, Dana, can I get you to hang on for another segment, another 10 minutes, 15 minutes?
Sure.
We're up against a break, but I want to, when we come back after the break, I want to ask you, can anybody channel, number one? And when they do channel, can they communicate with non-human entities or humans that have passed on? And then also, is it a good idea to go and try it? So think about that during this break. And I've always wanted to ask you these questions, so let's do this when we come back. This is Fade to Black. Tonight, Dana Dunn. I'm so happy. What a show. Dana, stay with us, and I want to talk channeling when we come back. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. It's going to be a great week on Fade to Black, and we're kicking it off tonight with Dana Dunn. I'll be back right after this.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Attention, all Fade or Not. Studio Dome has a special deal on their SD1 Bluetooth speaker. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on their banner, enter the promo code Jimmy, and you get $40 off and free shipping on the SD1. It's voice activated, comes with a USB antenna, cables, and a carry bag. Never listen to your phone, tablet, or laptop speakers ever again. It's the only way to listen to Fade to Black. That's jimmychurchradio.com, Studio Dome banner, promo code Jimmy. Go Beckley Teppy.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
Hey everybody, what's up? Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and check this out. The 2015 MUFON Symposium will be held this September 24th through the 27th in beautiful downtown Irvine, California. Expanding ufology, opening new doors in academia, industry, and media. Former Defense Minister of Canada Paul Hellyer will be there in person. Former CNN news anchor Cheryl Jones, TV news journalist Jaime Maussan, and MUFON's chief photo analyst Mark D'Antonio. They're just a few of the growing list of names for the 2015 event. It's September 24th through the 27th at the beautiful Hotel Irvine. Get your tickets today at MUFONSymposium.com. That's MUFONSymposium.com. Go Beckley Teppy.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. Tonight, Dana Dunn. Thank you to Serena Wright Taylor earlier. Amazing. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Bespoke Radio for the masses. Hey, Dana, I was saying before the break, can anybody channel?
Yes. But in order to be able to channel, first of all, we have to understand everybody's birthright is the gift of intuition. So it's very good to start out developing the intuition before diving off into the deep end of any pool, you know. It's very important to begin to work with your own intuition, learning how to trust it, learning how it feels when you're being intuitional, because so many people today have the ability to use their intuition. Again, it does require a little bit of disciplining, like I said, the chattering mind, because sometimes a lot of intuitional people, and I've encountered this, like I said, I've been doing this 28 years. You cannot let your personal emotions or feelings come in. You have to kind of hold that. Imagine how God feels. Like you got to hold that God line. You can't let your own emotions influence the thinking. So you have to be neutral. You have to train yourself to be neutral. And so that requires the disciplining of the mind and the disciplining of the emotional body. But once you do that, then you open up the brain activity towards the intuitional mind or the third eye. And then it is in the realm of that third eye that the channeling begins to happen. The biggest thing I caution people on, there's a lot of interesting material written today. And be careful about opening up doorways before their time. Baby steps in anything is really smart. I think the biggest mistake a lot of people make, and in my earlier years when I used to work out of a bookstore, a metaphysical bookstore, people would come in and they'd be like, I have an entity in my house, I was playing with the Ouija board, I was doing this, and I'm like, what are you thinking?
Right.
First of all, in every good ancient text, there's warnings, and it says you have to prepare a place. You have to create a boundary. So, because these entities, there's lots of different entities. I've been a mediumship for people who have passed away. But I'll even tell my clients, hey, I'm not going to go knocking on their door. If while I'm working with you, they want to come through, that's awesome. Because there's a fine line there that you have to be respectful of, and you have to understand that there are some incarnate entities who they're just waiting to have a physical host. And if you invite them, they don't have to leave. So, and that's why I used to even tell my students, there are some alchemists who would argue this with me. Drugs are never a good idea when you're inviting something into you. There's different styles. There's hymns and prayers. That's always the safest way to go. There's invocations, evocations, conjuring. There's lots of ways you can call a presence and an entity into you. But when you get into conjuring and, bidding on an entity, you better have on a big baseball glove, and you better be ready to receive what you're asking to get. So I always taught my students in the beginning, it's always good to begin with hymns and prayers. Let them come to you. Set the boundary, because if you do an invocating, try to remember the word in the beginning means you're letting it come into you.
Right.
Evocating is exterior, saying, I want you to come visit, but no, you can't have my body. I'm going to stay in my body, and you can come visit me. So, yeah, there's different mediumships, but if people want to start with the first experience, that's why I love teaching my students the candle one, because that's the best one to start out with, because that allows you to feel how the shift is going to feel when you're shifting, so that you can stay in control. When I first used to channel all the time, I'd have to remind myself, hey, I'm driving a car. I can't have you guys bothering me while I'm driving a car.
Right.
I need to be present. So I would have to draw boundaries all the time, being like, oh, no, we're not going there now. Thanks for the offering, but that's not going to happen. So, yeah, there are boundaries, and like I tell people, do your homework, do your research before you jump into anything. Know the language. Know what you're what you're involving yourself with. Because there's certain, you can read this among rabbis and some of the rabbinical texts. There are states of meditation where people didn't make it back.
Do you have a Ouija board at the house?
Do I?
Yes.
I have a lot of interesting things at my house. That, yes. Do I use it? No. Do I use it to educate people? Yeah.
Okay. Where I'm going is Ouija boards are just a bad idea.
Period. Yeah, they are.
They're just a bad idea. I don't have one. I've messed around over the years. Never. There isn't a good thing on the backside of a Ouija board experience. It's not going to end well.
No, no, and because the reason is everyone's so ill prepared when they use it. First of all, if I were going to use one, and I don't, but if I were going to use one, I would erect a sacred circle so that nothing escapes that space.
Right.
And I would make sure that I was calling in even bigger protection than what that board is going to offer me. Because I want to make sure I'm going to come out on the other side of that experience okay. But the terrible thing is what most people don't understand is just the idealism of the Ouija board can lead to conjuring, and you may not realize you've conjured it at all.
Right,
but once you let it through, you can always, get a very skilled, experienced person to come in and remove it, but they're going to have to know everything you said when you conjured it, because you're going to have to reverse everything you said at the beginning. So my advice to people who want to play in that realm, write it all down or tape it, because when you want to undo it, you're going to have to know what you said, because that's how the energy works. There is power in words. That's why even in Scripture it says in the beginning was the Word. Words are powerful. And so it is important to know how we articulate and how we use them. And, when you're a kid, it's fun, right? Everybody thinks it's fun. Let's see if we can talk to the dead or have a ghost come. Well, it ain't so fun when it don't want to leave.
Right, and they're sold at Toys R Us, which, go figure that one out. That's bad news. I wanted to ask you a lot like your gas station experience with Serena. When I was younger, this was about 30 years ago. I was driving around in Indianapolis, and I'm on the outside of town, borderline country, right at the edge of the city. And there was this one street that I used to drive up and down, and I'm driving up it. I'm by myself, and I see off to my left this house that I had never seen before, and it was like this little white house, and it had a pool in the front yard. And it was, it was kind of cute, and it was small, but there was a for rent sign there. And I did a U-turn. I was like, for rent? Wow, that's that's the ultimate, pad, right? So I flip my car around, and I go back, and I get out, and I check out the house, and right next to it, now it was surrounded by thick woods, forest, thick woods. And next to it was a graveyard that looked like, from my memory, said there was like maybe 8 gravestones, like some family plot kind of thing. And it was off to the distance, but I could see it. And I take down the number, and I check out the house and stuff. And then I split, and I tell my friends about it. And I say, man, I'm going to rent this house, man. It's got a pool. It's really cool. It's this 1-bedroom thing. But, man, and we went back and with a couple of friends, and we never found the house again. I never went back. Yeah. Now, the strange thing was, this was a street that I had driven up and down a million times, and I knew it well, and I knew it, and we went, and it wasn't there. My friends were, thinking I was making up this whole thing, this cool pad with the pool in the front and this. And it was we never found the house again. What happened?
Two things. First of all, you entered what is called an event horizon. You actually saw an event, I believe, in the future mixed with your past. So you entered in this event horizon that afternoon, kind of like, no pun intended here, but, kind of welcome to the Twilight Zone.
Right.
You put into this event horizon, and when you turned around and went back out the same way you came, which was probably a smart move that you did that, otherwise a lot of people continue into the event horizon and they disappear, which absolutely could have happened to you in that event horizon case. And I also think somewhere you might want to subject yourself to some regression work, because I would imagine you would have a recall of the graves in some prior incarnation as to an event that is tied to you. So this wasn't happenstance, and this absolutely was not in your imagination. You actually kind of went between the worlds and actually got to see an event that is either part of a future event to unfold for you or a past event. And
you know what was...
and I like to call them event horizons, because it takes a very interesting alignment of events to happen for these type of events to happen. Some people have them in lesser degree than what you had this experience in. Some people have what they call like a deja vu experience. Very different than the experience you had. It literally manifested itself. And that was because you entered into an event horizon zone. So, very powerful. And you should really try to write down and remember as much as you can of that day, that event. Was it sunny? Was it cloudy? How were you feeling right before? What were you feeling during the experience? All of that is so important.
Yeah, there was a few things that I've tried to replicate with that. First off, on this particular street, I was just going somewhere, and I thought, it's a nice shortcut. Let's go ahead and take this. I don't take it too often, but boom. And that was that. And the street that I was on, out there, the streets are a mile apart, okay? It was out in the suburbs. And I went back, after I couldn't find that house again, I went back, and the only other street in either direction were a mile away that were totally different street. I mean, it was residential on one side, or the other side there was a shopping mall. The one that went through the woods was this one street, and I went up and down a couple of others trying to find this house. And every time I went up that street, until I, left town and moved to California, I always looked for that, and I never saw it again. I never found it. It was just a bizarre thing, and it was just strange, and I grew up there, and I knew every street, I knew every house, I knew everything. And this one day I happened to see it, and I made the U-turn, went back, got out of my car, physically walked around and checked it out and looked in the windows, did everything, and never saw the house again. Never. It just a strange thing. And I know it sounds weird, everybody, but it happened.
Yeah, well, you definitely entered a vortex that allowed you to experience them. And again, I say it was a good thing you turned around and went back the other way, because oftentimes there is even, I can't remember the name of the book right now, but I have it on my shelf, but there was a whole book written on this about a gentleman who was walking out in a field. He disappeared. Several months later, he reappears, totally different year, totally different everything, and he's in the middle of New York City. And and then there was a police officer in which he entered into an event horizon and had a very interesting experience. So, yeah, that's what happened to you, Jimmy, as you entered into an event horizon that was predestined, obviously, because of your familiarity of the area and some other force, some other event and that is tied to you that allowed that doorway to open. So that's huge.
Yeah, it was it was crazy, and it actually happened, Dana. And you and I should talk more about this off of the air. There's some other stuff there I can tell you about. And really quick, I wanted to ask you before I let you go, and I can't wait to get you back on the show, and we can go in. I told you earlier today, we're never we're doing the show right now, Dana. We got to stop this. And everything that we talked about earlier today, we didn't touch upon any of it. So we've got to get you back on and head in those directions. But deja vu, it's one of my favorite subjects, only because I experience it every day and I enjoy it. I relish the moment. I write it out and I have fun with it. But what the heck is happening when we deja vu? What is going on?
Yeah, deja vu is an interesting energy because I know we got to go, so I'm going to make this brief and short. What happens with deja vu? When I was a little kid, I was riding in the car with my parents, and I told my dad, "Well, up around." Now they had never taken me to this part of Utah, but I told my dad, up around the bend, there's going to be a general store dab with one of those wooden totem Indians on it, and you need to pull in there. I need to get something from there. My dad's like, what? So up around the bend, there's this Indian, there's this general store. My mom and dad looked at each other, and my dad was going to pass by, and I said, you can't, Dad. I'm supposed to go in there. So deja vu experiences are, I believe, precog. They're events that we, because when we look at our natal chart or when we're sent here, we've already kind of programmed what we're going to do, and deja vu sometimes reminds us what's going to occur or happen because we've already had a precursor to it. We've already seen it. And that's why it's so fascinating, that deja vu experience where you look at the other person or you look at yourself and you're like, whoa, that's way cool. But it's because, again, that other 90% of our brain we're not using, somewhere every now and then it kicks in and we get a preview of what we're capable of. And I believe that's what deja vu is all about.
Well, and I think it's also a look, it's some evidence of time travel. I believe that.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Yeah, that we are able to somehow, whether it's us that has seen our own future, we've been there and we're just, coming back to write out the rest of our lives, or if somebody else hasn't read our book, and seen our future and has let us know, at that moment of the deja vu, somebody's just letting us know, keeping us in check, and also letting us know that, your future is there. Am I explaining myself correctly? Yes,
you are. You're doing a very good job because deja vu is one of the most interesting aspects in some of the occult sciences, but it's the most fascinating because, it's that old statement. It did the inventing of the will,
right.
Like the vision is already in your conscious, and whether you're being teleported to that, having viewed it in the past and not remembered it, and then experiencing it in the moment. But either way, deja vu is it's one of my passions in studying and loving because it is the one time that we actually get a glimpse to the understanding of something that we I like to think of it as like a reminder. The universe is trying to remind us that we have this ability to go out of body and experience things. We have this ability to transport ourselves to other places and dimensions. And, we may not come back into the body and remember it, but the psyche does. And so then deja vu goes, oh, I think I've been here before.
Yeah, right. Well, if somebody tells you that they don't deja vu, do you believe them? Because I think everybody does, whether they admit it or not.
I'm going to have to say, you're probably not going to like my answer. No, I know there are some people who can't and don't. And it's not because they couldn't. It's just that somewhere their psyche overrides it. Like somewhere there's a fear associated to that. I've done, some regression work on some people who had really major blocks. And then after, helping them not fear it, because sometimes there can be a traumatic event associated to some of this understanding, and people just block it. They're like, whoa, I don't want to do that ever again. So, I'm going to say there are some people who haven't had a deja vu, and not because they probably wouldn't like it or want to experience it, but somewhere something in their higher mind is blocking the memory of the experience.
Wow, what a bummer.
Yeah, that's what I said too. I'm like, oh man, I'm so glad I've had these experiences. I'd rather have enjoyed them, but yeah, there are some folks who get cheated those experiences, but they can be opened up to it. But it does take a little bit of rewiring the thinking.
Dana, thank you so much for coming on the show. And I want to say this really quick, or ask you, are you speaking anywhere anytime soon?
Not presently, no. I'm trying to get the summer off a little bit here. But I'll probably pick up some things starting in the fall again.
Thank you so much, Dana. It was all that and more. And you had the busiest schedule ever, but we've got to get you back on the show as soon as possible, as your schedule permits. So the invitation is there. Okay, and then we'll talk off the air. We've got some other stuff to talk about. Thank you so much, Dana. Amazing.
Thank you for having me, Jimmy. Have a great evening.
Thank you so much. Dana Dunn. Dana Dunn, she is absolutely extraordinary. And I got to tell you, the one thing about Dana is she said this on the show, technology, she doesn't do it. Websites, she don't do it. She doesn't go there. She can't use a computer because she blows them up. I'm not joking. She can't wear a watch. She can't. When you meet her, she doesn't have a watch on. Cell phones, they don't work. She blows them up. I'm not kidding. She's extraordinary. So all of that stuff, no, she just doesn't mess with it. And that's why if you can get a chance, if she is speaking anywhere in your area, you've got to go and connect with Dana Dunn. She's an extraordinary, extraordinary woman, and I can't wait to get her back on the show. We have so many other areas that we need to get into with Dana. Tonight, we just barely tapped into it. Before I let you go, I want to share this. Everybody knows I talk about it all the time. I lived in Central America. I lived in Panama for 3-4 years when I was a kid. And, yes, I've got a Panama tattoo that I got when I was like 14. Cost me $1 in downtown Panama City. And from Jim's Tattoo Parlor, oddly enough. Anyway, and my memories of Panama, the people down there are extraordinarily warm and just an unbelievable society down there. Okay? And this news story broke over the weekend, and I wanted to share it with you tonight. And it's this. The residents of Panama topped an annual ranking of well-being. Yes, Check this out. While Afghanistan ranked last and the United States took a tumble, the United States ranked 23rd of 145 countries, territories, and areas tracked by a Gallup poll well-being index. And the United States dropped to 23rd from 12th place last year. Panama, number 1. The United States' decline reflected fewer people reporting that they were satisfied with their feelings of community, including safety, as well as reporting less positive social ties. The addition of 11 more countries and areas in 2014's index also contributed to the United States' lower ranking. But Panama led the world in overall well-being for the second year straight, with 53% of the residents thriving in 3 or more areas of well-being, measures that include a person's sense of purpose, financial well-being, and physical health. And all I got to say to that is, right on, Panama. I knew it all along. I had a great time when I lived there. Panama is an extraordinary country. I got to thank Serena Wright Taylor. Thank you for coming on. Thank you, Dana Dunn. What a start to a week, right? That's how you do it. You hit the ground running. Fade to Black's executive producers, Rita Kamarian. Shows produced by Hilton J. Palm and Mark D. Kovar. Special thanks to LJ3, Renee, Mark Dunbar, and Jonas. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, and Mark D. Kovar. Fady by Dale. Webmaster is Method of Signaling. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. Music by Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Syndication, KGRA The Planet, tomorrow night, right here. Linda Zimmerman. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Follows on Twitter at JChurchRadio. I want everybody to please be safe. See ya.